fighting fury, we're from Tigerland. In any weather you will see us with a grin, risking head and skin. If we're behind then never mind, we'll fight and win, for we're from Tigerland. We never weaken till the final siren's gone.
Well, we're here for round 17 fan cams. I've seen a lot of commentary and a lot of opinions and views and everything like that on the different parts of socials, which is, it is what it is. Everyone's allowed to have their say, and this is what this platform's all about tonight, for you all to have your say. You can jump on and yeah, say your piece, good, bad, or indifference. If you want to jump on, the link will be in the chat comments pinned to the top on YouTube, so make sure you click that. I've posted it on a few different socials as well. Yeah, for those who are keen to jump on. But it's look, in a lot of ways, the result, the actual game result, was probably overshadowed a little bit by the Sam Lawler incident. I mean, we're almost at the point where it doesn't really matter if we say the word anymore, aren't we? It just seems that we are destined to have a ridiculous amount of shit luck on that front, which is super annoying. I mean, I don't know where to start with that. You know, the club come out and said that they gave him the extra week off, and you know, we obviously take them at their word for that he could have played last week. They held him over, do some extra training and whatnot, and then what was it, 2.5 minutes, if that, into the game, and it looks a bad one, doesn't it? I mean, there's hamstring issues, then there's hamstring issues, and this one seemed like on the absolute worst side of that. He was in a good amount of pain. And the fact he was grabbing so high up on his leg as well was, yeah, a little bit concerning. I mean, I won't be at all shocked if this results in surgery of some kind. I know that's a really big extreme to jump to, but typically when you see players in that much pain and the way that happened, it never ends well. But that almost certainly spells the end of the season for Lawler, which is really disappointing. There you go. Leo said it's a bad one. It's one of those, send him to Qatar, to Germany, to wherever Dylan Grimes went to, or wherever the best medical people around the world are, and get whatever was it the cow's blood injections, whatever the Grimes he had, whatever they've got to do it. It's a kid in his first year, and we have to just get it right, don't we? I think, Paulie, I think that has to be on the cards, doesn't it? I mean, I think we would be neglect and naive to not consider options like that. We knew he had a bit of a hamstring mild history when we picked him up. And look, if we're being honest, most footy players have done a hamstring at some point in time. Like, it's probably not that uncommon. But yeah, I guess question marks will start to come up about the fitness and conditioning again, because obviously Smiley's been out for an extended period of time. Armstrong, obviously Lafau come back and pop the calf, and then Lawler does that. I guess the question becomes, should they have done, or should Lawler have done a stint in VFL beforehand? I know people say he's too good to play VFL, and based on skill, I don't really disagree at all. But is there something now to be said for a match conditioning piece? Are we not able to replicate the right type of training on the track versus what is required at the actual game level? And do we need to really start using that middle ground of VFL a bit more, no matter who the player is, to ensure that their body's healed properly, is up to scratch, they've got the load into them before we start putting them back into AFL football? I think it's what I guess is a little bit frustrating is that Serpil, and I'm not having a shot at Serpil at this moment in time, but he comes across as an expert in hamstrings and ACLs, and we've kind of just feel like we've been riddled with random things like that. And it's true, Mr. Faff. Yeah, I mean, the Lafau one's probably just really bad luck, to be honest. But the Lawler one, he missed, 4 or 5 weeks. Just makes you wonder, doesn't it, if there should have been a bit of a stepping stone first. But look, I think that is him done for the year. And then, yeah, we'll have to wrap him in cotton wool and unleash him next year, which is, yeah, really disappointing for him and for the club. But even if it was a chance to play the last week for, I don't know why, but for whatever reason, we're not doing it. So then on top of that, we obviously had Hugo go off with a hamstring as well. Jasper Elgar and Tom Brown both went down in the first quarter with ankles or lower leg complaints, and they weren't right when they went back on the ground. So they, in a lot of ways, did us a bit of a solid going back out there, which was nice of them. But they kind of had to as well. But it really kind of limited what we're able to do. It was, in a lot of ways, I was actually, I don't know whether proud's the word, but I was really impressed and happy that it didn't blow out, because that could have easily been 150-point smashing after that first quarter. So the fact that we were able to have 5-7 after halftime, I think is actually a really good outcome for that second half. It could have been much, much worse after that second quarter. So on that front, I think there's definite grounds to say we didn't roll over and we definitely didn't give up. Yes, Geelong would have taken their foot off like other teams did previous weeks, but we still had to keep ourselves in the game, which we did, and were able to keep scoring, which was nice. But we still left a lot of goals on the table, which is always really, really frustrating. But anyway, tonight is your night. So if you want to chat, feel free to click on the link that's pinned in the YouTube. You can jump into the green room and we can get your thoughts. We've got Shannon first up from Hoops and Football. Shannon, how are you, mate? And firstly, congratulations.
Good, how you
going? By the way.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, it shows the Oh, good day, was it?
It's actually yellow and black as well. So we kept the good thing going.
Ah, nice.
I hope you can see it.
Ah, very good. Very good. I like it.
Yeah. That's all the wife's doing.
Well played.
No,
I'm glad you had a good day.
In Gold Coast, so it was, yeah, I did. Went well.
Didn't want to bring the weather back with you at all?
Be nice.
It was pretty miserable down here. But what did you make of the game today? There's obviously some real down points, but were there any other things you could take out of it at all?
Yeah, I'd probably say they finally gave MRJ the ability to go up the ground. And it was quite impressive to actually see that whole Jonty Falls goal, and it being, I think it was Rioli, had 3 or 4 attempts at it and didn't give up, which is, I think, what me and you have been saying the last few times on our platforms, that, if you're going to put him in the midfield in the VFL and he shines there, it's the same thing with Sonzi. Put him in where they're really good, and we don't have that speed and tenacity and desire to tackle with the usual 3 old men or slow men in our midfield. And I just think this game might be the one that wakes up Uze's eyes, that he actually is just like his old man. He's a midfielder, not a forward pocket.
And that goal you speak about with Jonty, from memory, I'm pretty sure Morris started that from the half-back line, and he actually ended up standing next to Jonty by the time he marked it. So not only had he disposed of it, but he'd actually still sprinted up the ground for the next couple of possessions, that he may not have got all of them, but his work rate was really good. I was super pumped for Morris today. If we're talking about silver linings and green shoots, by far and away, he was our best player, I thought, over the course of 4 quarters. Obviously, the circumstances in which he came onto the ground, we would rather not have happened. But I think that gave him opportunity, and I think he took the opportunity. He was aggressive for 4 quarters. And I think what impressed me a little bit as well was his skills are really good too, like hitting his targets. He was actually taking inboard kicks. I thought he was good. And I know people will say, it's all about consistency, and I get that. But if he can stay in that type of high half forward, pushing up the ground role, I think we'll see that consistently.
Yeah, well, you've got to give him the ability to develop as a midfielder in the AFL level as well. So we can't do the whole next week he goes back to being a forward pocket. If he shows that if he's a half forward or a winger, and he shows that going up the ground is what's best for the club, I'm all for trying something, because with Lawler down, Hugo down, we're going to have to throw the magnets around to make up for some holes we'll be missing over the next couple of weeks as well. So I was proud of him. I think they put him back in the VFL to prove that he could do it. I think he did 4 blocks in the midfield and proved that he could still get in close to the 20 disposals, still maintain his high pressure, and average about a goal a game in the VFL as well. So to me, you got to stick with it to the rest of the year, because right now we're too slow in the midfield, and he plays that kind of Cozzy Pickett role from Melbourne, where he can go forward and he can go in the middle. He brings pressure up, but he also can kick goals. He loves a goal. So, and
he got a goal which I think he thoroughly deserved to just get reward for his effort. Someone asked about the Jonty 4 goal. Essentially, it was a slingshot counter-attack started by Morris, and Jonty ended up marking about 25-30 out slide angle and put it through, which was, if we sidetrack a little bit, which was actually really good for Jonty as well, because we know his goal-kicking woes have been pretty bad, if we're being honest. It's very lopsided towards behind, so nice for him to get a goal on the board. And I thought Jonty worked hard today. It's just unfortunately for him, he actually takes a lot of shots from very far out. So I know he's a monster kick of the ball, but ultimately they're quite low percentage shots he's taking. But nice to see him get one on the board.
Well, one thing I will say, like, I know we could all probably, people are going to bash on him for not kicking, he could have kicked 3 goals, so he could have had a day out. But one thing we can't deny, that the effort is always there. You never see him sort of put his head down and get a bit sad because he hasn't kicked the goals. And he still has the balls to kick, to take the mark and go for the goal. Some people get the yips and they just go, I don't want the ball, and they pass off to somebody else, and that causes more issues. So there's going to be a game where he's going to break through that little slump. You can probably all can agree he's probably in a slump right now. And we think there's going to be a game where he's going to eventually get away from that slump and hit some form. Maybe it's next year, but to me, you can't deny the effort, and that's all I'm asking for right now from a first-year key forward is just effort.
And maybe that set shot, him backing himself to kick it, maybe that catapults him and he gets some confidence from it, hopefully. Because it would have been 100% weighing on his mind. But to your point, the not dropping your headpiece is a really good one, because there was a few even ground ball efforts in the middle of the ground later in the game, some clean pickups, and made some good decisions with some passing. It would have been easy for him to go into his shell and just, curl up and not worry about it. But it was good to see him, dig deep. But there wasn't many other bright lights apart from that, was there? I mean, who else played well? What did you make of Bolter up forward? It was Mansell. We'll talk about Mansell first. That's a good shout. Mansell was a good one.
Yeah,
that's probably his best game for a month at least.
Yeah, you have to say hands down. He hasn't. Or then he had his big suspension. He wasn't good before the suspension. This probably was his best game. Maybe it was. I'm pretty sure I probably said this on my video, where we weren't as Tom Lynch centric. Sort of like, remember how when Buddy was at the Sydney, they were too Buddy conscious, but they were always trying to go to Buddy, and all you have to do is, if you can shut down Buddy, the Swans would fall apart. And it seemed maybe over the last couple of weeks, we've swung to the whole just go for Lynch. And maybe with him not being in there, this will be the whole Mansell, you're going to have to step up. Jonty, Sims, obviously Noel with Bolter going forward. Sort of, I was kind of hoping they went Blight forward, not Bolter.
I'm surprised they didn't mix it up a little bit.
I think we all can agree that Bolter is a defender, not a forward. It's the same thing we did with Rance. We tried Rance forward. He wasn't a forward. He's a defender. I know the idea you kind of have to throw the magnets around. You had to.
Yeah. But my thing is, I still don't think we've ever played Bolter forward in a period of time where we've been operating as a well-oiled machine or anything remotely close to it. It's always been holy shit, we've got to do something. We've got to put him up there. So we're actually, I don't think we're giving him the best chance to actually shine forward by trying it. It's just like you'll do type thing. So it's kind of hard to tell, but someone made a good point. I actually questioned on Twitter why we wouldn't have swapped Bolter and Blight around. Someone made a really good point that maybe because of Bolter's next 2 weeks off, they wanted to keep Blight in defence because that's going to be where he's going to be playing for the next few weeks. I'm like, that's not a bad shout, just to get some continuity.
It's a valid reason.
Yeah, if that's the reason, that would make sense, and I probably didn't take that into consideration. But Ryan Mansell, 22 disposals, 8 marks. That's actually quite impressive. 2 tackles. And as much as we obviously think we need Tom Lynch out there, it will be interesting to see how much better we might become delivering the ball as the weeks go on. Tom Stewart, I don't think – I know he took 5 marks, but I don't think they were intercept marks. I think he might have been lucky to have had 1. So it was actually quite interesting that we didn't necessarily cough up as many intercept marks deep in 50 that I thought we were going to, or that we would have. It was interesting.
He's normally he was Stewart. Yeah, he's normally the number 1 defender. So with the key, with big key forwards, you kind of aim for them the whole time, which makes sense why probably threw him off guard a little bit as well. He's like, well, who am I on?
I think Jasper Olga was manning up on him for a while. So.
Oh, Jesus. Maybe that was just to get somebody else, get Sims and Jonty away from him. So
I think so.
Yeah, nah. Well, and then if you look at the comments, a lot of the guys are saying that Job Shanahan is better than Jonty Fall. I don't like that because they're both totally different players. And to me, I'm taking Jonty. We took him. The club trust him, and I don't like the idea of going, we should have drafted this player now. This is who we have now, guys. Let's just stick to who we have. Let's develop them to be the next people we want to see. Because every single player we've drafted this year has shown signs when they've played. So, I'm
even though
West
Coast, I know West Coast aren't that far. I mean, I know they're technically behind us in the ladder, but if we're talking about pure progression, they're definitely in front of us. And, people are talking about the new kid from Geelong today slotting in and shining. It's like, but it's easy to slot into a well-oiled machine and just do your role than be a bunch of kids chucked in amongst some experience, amongst a whole lot of nothingness. I think you can't make calls on our young players for a few years yet. But
it's only it's only one season in. Give some of these boys a couple of pre-seasons to build their body up. Like, I think everybody's we've had a bad month. We could all probably agree. We're at the start of the year, we won 3 games, so I think everyone was quite on a high. It was surprised how many we went to. But this is where we're expecting to be. We're expecting to have these games against Geelong, who are competing for a grand final to win another premiership, and we're just starting our rebuild. So this is what I expected us to be. I think I predicted 10 goals plus. So it's not far off. And I think maybe with everyone going down, at one stage I looked at my phone and we had one player on the bench that didn't say the I word. And I was like, what's going on right now?
The guy usually is.
Yeah, that was it. He's normally the guy off with the hamstring.
Uncharted territory for Prestia to be the only one standing. It is.
Yeah, and that's a lot to throw into Ooze as a coach. Hey, you got
I truly think that
for the next...
Yeah. I think 3 quarters.
Next 10 minutes.
I really think that the Richmond of last year would have lost that by 150.
Would have folded.
So I know a loss is a loss and it's still annoying, but I think the second half showed some okay signs. Like the fact it was a 5-7 second half. I mean, I think they put 10 or something on us in the second quarter alone. So it was nice to see them sort of grit their teeth a little bit and hold firm. But the Cats were they're just too classy. I mean, the Cats are what we're striving to be, aren't they? Their ball movement was really slick. I still was gobsmacked that we didn't have any different centre bounce attendees. It was still the same 4. And
it's got to change.
Centre clearances, I think we actually broke even from centre clearances. We lost stoppages around the ground.
Yeah.
It still surprised me, though, because Holmes, Danger, I think Atkins had like 17 tackles. It was crazy, but
just
didn't see any names in there.
Little flop.
Floston got even.
It deserved it. You watch a guarantee it's against Danger, so we're probably not going to see Floston for the next 3 weeks.
Can you imagine if he gets rubbed out for that after what happened in the grand final? There will be a mutiny. If that apparently there's media already saying that Floston could be in trouble.
They'll say it because he turns to looks away, so he went deliberately for contact. But to me, it's like when they're playing that video, they slow it down. I'm like, that's great. I don't like that idea. If you slow a play down to like a 0.01 speed, there's thousands of things you can pin people for.
Bad.
So, someone in there says about Ben Miller. There we go. There it is right there. That was the one I was talking about. I would probably have to say that he should be leading out best and fairest right now.
He'll be up there. He'll be up there with Taranto and Hopper. I know we don't like him in the midfield all the time, but they'll be definitely up there. Look, I know Jezza kicks his goals. I think Blight was on him for bulk of it. I think what's improved a little bit with Miller is his disposals kind of cleaned up a little bit. I think he's playing, or he understands his limitations a bit more, which is helpful. He's not trying to bite off a little bit too much.
Yeah, which is probably a bit smart because he was a bit of end of last year, which we can all probably agree that was just Richmond as well, but he was trying a bit too much, which was outside of skill.
Yeah.
Like not every player is an elite kick, and that seems to be a weird thing that the media seems to think that every player is an elite kick. They're not. Not every player is automatically, a 1 in a million kick. Miller never was. He probably never will be. But I think now he's just maybe sort of worked out his niches, what he can and can't go for. And, he's not a Noah Bolter where he can drop it on the foot and kick it about 70 metres and still hit somebody on the chest. His range is between, 35 to 40 metres and he'll hit a target pretty good. And that's probably a good thing. And you can see that, he's only just hit 50 games now. So if you're looking at what Noah is giving you, what Miller's giving you at 50 games, it's the same thing with the rest of the players. We need to realise that we're still playing a very young side. And in 2 or 3 years, it could be Miller all over again, or tons of different players that 50 games in, 70 games in, start to see what they really are about.
Seth Campbell, what did he make of his game today? 19 disposals, 5 marks, 1 tackle, 3 clearances from around the ground. I thought today was a day that he probably got a bit more involved in general play, which I liked. I like seeing him get his hands on the footy a bit more.
Well, he's good by foot, he's good by hand, and he has speed as well. So he's probably like another one I would like to see to move up the ground as well. You kind of need it, I think, every now and then to have a player that can go up the ground and use his speed, and he's willing to use his speed. He's not afraid to try and burn players off. And I feel like we need more players like that right now. So if you think about it from the start of the year, I think it was at 2 goals a game, but he was getting about 9 touches. So I think he's getting close to averaging about 16 to 17 touches a game now. And that's good to see that he's evolving slowly through.
That would be a good average.
Touches. Yeah, which is good because it means he's either getting up the ground more or we're doing well with the ball. And he's quite damaging as well by foot. So I really kind of enjoying his game where more. I would like to see him at more centre bounces. He's got quick feet, sort of like Taj, where he's a good sidestep. He can spin out of contest really well. So it wouldn't be kind of as bad as it sounds to say. You kind of want one of the 4 slow midfielders kind of to go down, so you can. Who has no other choice but to play some of these young speed players in the midfield. Yeah, I don't want to curse that upon anyone to go out for a couple of weeks. But you feel like it needs to kind of be forced upon Ooze to make these changes without him choosing it. That's just unfortunately how it is. Because Campbell would be a good injection of a bit of speed into the game.
He definitely would. It's good to see him up around stoppage, but I think there's another evolution to happen after that. Yeah. Tyler Sonsie, a lot of people are asking about. I thought he had a very Taylor 2 halves types game. Like he had 17 touches, and some of his disposals were quite good. He had some good releasing handballs, some nice kicks, but then there was a couple of contests that he probably should have gone a bit harder for, which seems to be a little bit of a theme with him that can maybe be a bit of his undoing. But I respect that he found the ball and got some disposals, but I think sometimes when it's your turn to go, you just got to put your head over it and crack in to show a bit more fight.
Which confuses me with him because as soon as you put him in the VFL, that goes away. When you watch him in the VFL, he's not afraid to get his head taken off. He just wants that ball. I don't know whether he gets too comfortable once he gets back into the AFL, and then those things that what makes him so good in the VFL disappears into the AFL. So I have no concerns with Sonsie. It seems to be the same issues over and over. He doesn't seem to be working out to fix those now before the 3 years is up and your career is done because you just didn't take the opportunities you're given. When there's players that would put their head over the football every day of the week just to get a chance to play. So, and the tail 2 halves is probably not on him. It's probably just the whole entire side as well. When the team's down, most people are down, and when the team's up, everybody seems to be a bit more energy to get the ball and go again. So the tail 2, was there really anybody who played good for the 4 quarters? I don't think there was too many that were played consistent for 4 quarters.
No, there wasn't too many. One that I reckon that did, though, I reckon Sam Banks had another really good game. 26 disposals, 8 marks, 6 tackles. It can be tricky to play when the ball's coming down there that much like it was in the second quarter, but he was another one who, again, for the last sort of month or so, I think's been really good, and again solidified his spot for me as a halfback for us. I thought he was good. Yeah,
he's giving off Bashir Hooley vibes to me, where he doesn't have a bad game. Like his bad game is everybody else's good game. So, and maybe he's finally found his niche in that halfback. That running seems to be willing to take the run on, kick the ball. He's good because I know he can kick left and right as well. So he's quite ambidextrous as well. That comes in handy, especially going off that back line, which I think is what made Jaden Short used to be so good, is that he was a good booming left and right foot. And I don't know whether he's asked Shorty or he's studied Shorty quite a fair bit, but he seems to have just slotted right into what Jaden Short used to be so good at, was that running player that would go left and right and never seemed to crack under pressure, never really seemed to have too many bad games. So it's quite good. I really enjoying it. We needed it as well. We really did need it as a player, because it was one position that at the start of the year I was really concerned that we didn't seem to have that. What Rioli used to be for us off that halfback. When Rioli left, we can't be Short because we knew what Short was last year. He wasn't going to replace that high speed running. He's good overhead as well, Banks. So yeah, you probably say he might be up there with probably the most improved player for our whole entire team.
Yeah, between he and Seth Campbell, I think would be two very likely candidates for that. He's been super the last month. It's been, in a lot of ways, a bit of a blessing in disguise that he's found that role for himself, which has been good. One stat that always bothers me when we do shit in it, and I think it can be a bit telling for how a game pans out, is tackles inside 50. We average 8 for the year, and today we had 1. Geelong had 12 by contrast, and their average is 14, so they're actually still under their average, but still a double-figure total. 1 tackle inside 50 is just... I don't know how that happens. Like, I know, Bolter was down there, Sims, Fall, there was some of the smalls down there. It just seems like a stat that is in some ways unforgivable, and it kind of shapes the pressure for the rest of the ground. I don't know. I just don't like it. We've done that a couple of times now as well, which I'm not a huge fan of.
I think probably why it annoys probably most Richmond fans is because that's what that used to be our bread and butter. If you think back to the premiership days, it was once that ball got into the 50, you could see the teams would just shit the pants because, oh crap, it's in their forward line, we ain't going to get it out because the pressure was so intense, so much tackling. Yep. Although I don't know if it's just because it's young or so young in the forward compared to every other spot, or do we need to look into a new forward coach? Because the forward line just seems to be a bit of a jumble right now, and no one seems to know what they're doing. So, and that's effort to me as well. And Moose always said that effort and intent is one thing that they can't vary on. And it seems like the forward, it always seems to have, if it's not going our way, there's no effort or intent afterwards. So that's just effort to me to tackle. Anyone can do that.
And that's the biggest thing, isn't it? I mean, I know it's really a really inexperienced forward line and a bit of a mishmash forward line, and I will always accept that. But when we're talking about tackling, you don't need to be the most skilled player or the most experienced player to be able to do that. Anyone on the list has the ability to make those tackles and to chase and to have an impact. And the only thing I'll say, Jasper was probably on one leg for most of it, so we're probably a man down with him chasing. But yeah, I want to see bigger output there. And I think your initial point is a pretty good one, that because it was our one wood for so long, there's probably just a high level of expectation from Richmond supporters on what that should look like. It just helps with games in general, doesn't it? Being able to tackle inside 50. But, outside of that second quarter, which was pretty well rat shit, I actually thought, even in the first quarter, when despite what was happening around us, I actually thought we pressured and played not too bad. And it was just more a case of that Geelong were a bit more polished and were able to execute better than us, which we can live with. That is what it is. But I actually thought we kind of hung with them a bit in that first quarter.
Yeah, well, if you think of that, really the whole entire game was dependent on that second quarter where they kicked, I think it was 9 goals or something like that. And that takes the wind out of anybody, especially when you've just watched one of your mates probably just tore his hammy off the bone, considering how much pain he was in. And then everyone was down as well, so you had no bench. It probably took a big chunk of your confidence out of you, because the first quarter, I think we only were down by, I think it was 8 points going into that second quarter. So it shows that we were able to hang with them.
Yeah.
I think just everything at once hit them pretty hard. And I think it took a while for the coaches to adjust to what was going on. And by that time, Geelong just had their way. And it's not surprising,
No,
people
no.
now comparing Geelong and Collingwood are the top two teams to beat right now. So
Yeah.
it makes me now concerned when we verse the buddy Collingwood now.
Yeah, exactly right. And we've still got Geelong again. Like, how stupid is the fixture, honestly? It makes no sense.
I don't understand. No wonder Geelong has the easiest bloody fixture coming up. They're versing us twice. I really thought we'd be versing a lot more, the lower teams a lot more, but I get the idea. But it's at the MCG, I'm pretty sure, as well. So
I think so.
Yeah, I believe it is, because I don't think we'll play 2 games at their home, because nobody likes going down there with those short wings.
Yeah.
And that's another one. There you go. That's why I didn't think of that. Didn't think of that as well. Did the short wings really throw a lot of these young players out because they haven't played in that ground before? It's all new to them. Geelong has the shortest ground, or the wing.
Maybe.
The wings are the shortest in AFL.
They definitely played the ground well. I think it was just their ball movement was just elite. But what was actually, and I know I accepted this was a little bit because the Cats probably weren't caring as much at the end, but we did have a couple of nice end-to-end passages of play, but we did take off kicks into the middle because they kind of slacked off and they probably allowed it to happen. But I would still rather us still take that kick, even if it's been gifted to us, and try and create good habits and good motions than not. So it was nice to actually put together a couple of end-to-end bits of play that we haven't probably seen in totality for a couple of weeks because of the quality of opposition we're up against.
Well, that's the same. You could probably say the same thing about, I think it was Brisbane, Port Adelaide, and St Kilda. Yeah, we had a bad 2 quarters, but we showed something in the last 2 quarters that we can hang with any team for 2 quarters. Unfortunately, just not experienced enough to do it for 3 or 4. And that's what we're asking for, really, if you think about it as fans. We're asking to see something instead of the games where you see us for 3 quarters, we kick 1 goal, we go scoreless. But we showed something. Like at one stage, I think it was 1 score for 17 inside 50s. So it shows you we are actually moving the ball from defence to midfield to forward. It's just not executing once it goes into a forward. And that might be the next stage for next year, is executing, going into forward, and then executing from forward to kick a goal. Because we definitely need to work on that in the off-season, because I'm quite tired of seeing us kick more points than goals, because you're never going to win a game. We're never going to develop into a winning culture if we are always satisfied with kicking, say, 7 goals 10 instead of 10 goals 7. And so to me, it's a big key of us improving next year, is to more converting. I don't mind if it's 10-10, but you've got to show some sort of sign of it. Yeah, it can't be so lopsided every single week, because it just kills the confidence. That Giants game was the same thing.
Yeah.
We could have smashed them by 100 points if
yeah. Well, we should have.
Yeah.
And I think even today, in that second quarter, there was a period of maybe 5 or 10 minutes where I think Bolter dropped an uncontested mark on a lead inside 50, which should have been a shot at goal. Elgar dropped a mark inside 50, which should have been a shot at goal. Bolter missed a snap. Jonty Fall missed a shot or 2. So we probably left 5 or 6 goals, or at least good shots at goal, on the table in a short period of time. And that just sort of takes it out of you. And it's something we need to address quickly. Eric, it's not a bad question about the total sprints in terms of effort. My personal opinion, and I might be wrong, my correlation to those numbers is you've got a team of Geelong that are 6 to 8 years ahead of us in pre-season and conditioning, to a team that's got a lot of players in their first pre-season or in their second or third. I reckon it's as simple as that. And we lost a couple of players on the bench, so I think your efforts minimise and get reduced. I reckon that's how it correlates, but it's never a pretty stat to look at when you see there's almost 100 more sprint efforts from the opposition than your own players, is it?
Well, when you go down a player so quick, and a few players also get down hurt, I think it was Brown and Albert both, hurt their ankle, that takes away. There's 2 players that during the game really can't sprint because they're limping. They've taped up just to get back on the ground, so we have some rotation to give these players some sort of rest. So, you take away 3 or 4 players who can't give that effort because they're hurt, you could lose 30 or 40 just off that alone. So
yeah, well, I mean, there was a few times where Jasper was near the footy. He could not get to it in a sprint to get it. I won't be shocked if Jasper misses next week. With what I don't know whether it's a rolled ankle or bruising, whatever it might be. Brown seemed to be able to move a bit more freely as the game went on. Again. Yeah, got a goal. And that was his apology to Morris. He felt bad that Morris got the high hit and Brown's apologised. I reckon if you take advantage, you should never apologise if you stop.
Especially,
I mean, that was a no-brainer advantage.
Yeah, definitely. If you're open to kick a goal,
yeah, he was running straight onto it. It's when they take shit advantages on the boundary line, snapping it over their head. It's like, come on, play the percent. But that was 100% on. That was fine.
Look, and he's a defender. You take a goal when you can get as a defender. Because I used to play a defender. When those goals come along, they were sweet.
Never apologise very often.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Thank you, Birdman. So that's in relation to Jasper Alger, I'm assuming, Birdman. That would make sense that he was able to get back out there from no structural damage.
Take it up.
He's going to be very sore tomorrow when he takes when he takes his boot off.
You can probably see, I don't know who we have next week, but you could probably say you're going to see the good 3 or 4 changes plus coming into next week's game. Just with, I think some of these players who got hurt are going to be quite sore going into next week.
Yeah, well, we've got the Bombers, and I'm not wanting this to sound disrespectful because it's really not meant to sound that way. But when you, by contrast,
they're not any better than us.
Well, it feels like it's a game we should be in, right? We've had 3 or 4 games in a row now against top 4 teams that the quality difference is obvious, and we accept it. It is what it is. Now we're playing a team that's a bit more closer to our level. I don't want to say on the same level because they are ahead of us still, but I feel like this should now be a game that we have to be setting ourselves for to be in. Like, whether we win it or not, I'm not too sure, but it wouldn't want to be a similar margin. Like, if we're going to lose, not to be preemptive, but it'd want to be a close loss. Like, we need to be right in the fight for this game.
Well, you'd hope so. You can be like, okay, boys, we're not going up against a top 4 contending team. You think the comp's a bit higher. We might see some players tomorrow shine and knocking on the door to come in and play a game. So whether or not they're going to be coming in anyway, I would like to see us put up a good fight against them. It'll be at the MCG, so it's going to be back at home. Actually, no, it's not, is it? It'll be at Etihad because it's Essendon's home game because we had the.
No, it should be at Marvel.
Etihad, isn't it?
So it'll be at the G. I'll double check.
Yeah, I keep saying Etihad because it's so used to have been called for so long.
Surely,
I think we
at the G.
Well,
no, it's our home game. Our home game at the G. There you go. Because they had the Dreamtime home game, and it's our home game. So at the MCG.
Yeah, depends on who's in and out as well. If Bolter can't play because it's a night game, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, he's
so
out.
It takes away another forward coming into it. So, like, who comes in? You might be seeing a Kaczynski coming in from the VFL as a forward or a defender. Just because experience, like I was questioning maybe this week, do you bring somebody in who's played enough high enough level? I just don't think we've got any other key forwards to come in.
Yeah, so
we're going to help out.
So we'll lose Bolter by default. Mm-hmm. Interesting. So Blight's still going to play back. Miller's still going to play back. So
well, actually, does Blight play back? Because they're not very tall as a team with the amount of players they have down.
And the other player that will be I think Campbell Gray's coming back into play VFL for the Essendon game, so he's out of the question.
So is Armstrong this week as well.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens. And Cozzy may get the call up. Just I still think Tyler Young could be worth a shout too, but Cozzy's probably a bit more forward craft.
Yeah, but Tyler Young played. Yeah, unless you're bringing Taylor in to switch Blight forward and do roles reverse. And we know I like Blight as a forward. He's got a great leading pattern. His cardiovascular system is quite high, good IQ, and is actually a good set shot. So it's gonna be a challenging one. I just hope it's not one of those ones where everyone's kind of crushed and turns into a similar game.
And this is why tomorrow's going to be fascinating with the VFL, because with Lawler being out, which was obviously shit, but there's some spots that are now open. I mean, Alga could get pushed out with the foot. We know that Bolter's going to be out, so Atoll's got to put their hand up. Maybe Bauer has a really good game. Maybe they try Young. We might see someone up forward tomorrow that we maybe didn't expect in preparation to see what happens. Tash Houghton gets another chance tomorrow. And if he plays even remotely well, I think
last week.
as well as Sonsi played, but Sonsi got some just good disposal. I think Taj would offer a bit more in that same type of role, so he could be at risk there as well. But
I don't know. I don't think so. If Alga's out, you need to bring in a small that hybrid forward, which Taj is.
So Sonsi
He's
may
not
hold on
that.
because Alga might be out. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty keen on the idea of Bauer, just because he's a mature body. We know he can actually play a good game. He's played a consistent form, like consistently-ish in the VFL, and he's played some games, full games in the VFL as well. And it might just be his way back into the team. Actually, his luck comes up because some players go down. He comes in and he might not go out. It happens to some players as well in the AFL. Is that somebody does it in turn, somebody gets hurt, they come in and they just don't go back out because they got that chance and then they're on fire. And Harry can't come in. Harry was his first game this week.
Yes, because he's meant to be this week and he's off for another week playing next week.
Yeah,
Justin, I reckon he's going to because but he kept playing, so that's going to be really sore. I just doubt whether he'll be able to get up. Maybe he'll get up. He might be okay, but they can be real pains in the ass to get through if you've kept playing on it for the rest of the 4 quarters. It could be a bit tricky.
I wouldn't risk him either. I'm not against.
No.
I get the idea. You need to get players, but I'm not against ever risking players to play just because you need to fill a spot. Find somebody else. Same as Lawler. Well, I think he's done for the season, and I think we do the right thing by benching him for the rest of the season. You get him right coming into next year, gives him the preseason with some of these players who have been out, going to be out too long. Give him that chance to recover properly this time. So
it's such a shame that Fawcett went down, wasn't it? Because he had an okay game when he took Lynch's spot, and then obviously went down himself with the syndesmosis, which is a shame.
And there's no Samson Ryan, so you don't even have Samson Ryan to come in to do a switch with Nate Curvis, unless you bring in Hayes Brown.
Get the snack back in, jeez.
I'm not against that. Actually, he's really shocked me, and honestly, you're probably not against it because he actually seems to kick some goals quite well. We know Nank can go forward. He did it for Richmond a few times back in, I think it was 2019, when we went through that big lull with players hurt in Gold Coast. He went down for Gold Coast in the forward line and kicked a few goals. So you could definitely do that if you bring in another ruckman to allow Nank to rest forward temporarily.
Yeah, there's going to be plenty of magnets to flip around to see how we go. But yeah, disappointing result though. Yeah. Hopefully the draw opens up a bit now. I mean, the question still remains, do you think we can get ourselves into a position to win another game for the rest of the year?
Yes. Yeah.
You reckon we can? Well, I'm going to find our fixture because I haven't looked.
You still have West Coast and North Melbourne to play each. We still got to play them one more time each.
So we've got Essendon next week, and then we've got West Coast in Perth. That makes it a bit more difficult over in Perth. Then we've got Collingwood. That's a complete write-off. Gold Coast and Gold Coast is probably a write-off as well. St Kilda, they tend to, for some reason, have a...
Who knows with them?
They just match up well against us for some bizarre reason. And Mason Wood's going to play like Wayne Carey. Then North Melbourne in round 23. That's in Hobart. Gee, that probably evens it up. But, I mean, what's difficult is, like, West Coast and North Melbourne will equally as identify the games against us as chances that they can win too. So it'll be interesting to see how we go. Like, you'd want to see a tighter game against all of those types of clubs.
Yeah, I think I know some people say North Melbourne and West Coast isn't a game you can win, but also the Carlton and Gold Coast game was a game we weren't meant to win either. So you never know. By that time, I think a few of them, Lynch might be getting close to return. Gibkiss will have been back. Taj will have played a few more games. Harry Yarmshaw will have played a few more games. So by that time, a lot of players returning that would have given themselves a 3 or 4 week block a chance to come back in. And you just never know with the young players what they're going to do as well. So who knows, Taj might come in and be a Chris Judd-esque in his...
Hopefully. We could do with that. We could definitely do with that.
You never know. Like I said, people say
it feels like it's going to be a struggle.
Yeah, it is. But we originally said 2 games, and we won 3. Some people said 0. I think we're ahead of where people thought we're going to be. And I think everyone knew kind of the rest of the season would be a grind because this is where the young players get tired already because they haven't played this many games and this long and this much flying around, more traveling. It's a lot more different to their bodies than it is playing under 18. So it was expected. I just still looking for the small glimpses as a club to show that, we are going in the right step and Ooze is the right coach for us. That still remains to be seen that he is the right coach. Maybe he's the right coach for the developing of the young players, but is it the coach to take us forward and win? And then with North Melbourne and the Eagles, we'll have Bolter back as well by then because they're probably going to be all day. Oh, no, Bolter can't play West Coast.
No,
I can't play Hobart either.
You can't play. Yeah, you can't play. I can go back on the Spirit. Oh, no, it's 8 hours. We can't do that.
Yeah.
The Uze one's interesting because there's been a lot of people sort of commenting about him as well over the last few weeks. I still don't think we're going to get an accurate gauge until next year. I mean, I know these last 4 weeks have been tough. They've been shit to watch. I get it, and I agree. But we're played against good sides, and I think that counts for something. And I don't think anyone was truthfully surprised by any of the last 3 weeks' results.
Yeah.
But I guess the big question is, how do we progress next year? What does that look like? Because we are going to want to see some incremental improvements. And I think, I'm definitely putting a lot of faith in them that they know what they're doing by not loading up too much information for the now and building on it for next year. But what was going to be interesting is you look at the Geelong, Adelaide and Bulldogs with those margins. For me, they're kind of now our floor, like our baseline bottom out floor. So now next year when we play these teams again, we've now got a measuring stick to see, okay, we got comprehensively smashed by these top 4 sides. What does that now look like? Where have we improved and what have we done to make gains?
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting. I still don't think we can judge Uze yet one way or another. I think it's still too soon.
I don't think you can really. I think 2 years of a rebuild is quite harsh. If you think about the amount of games we lost, the amount of young players we brought in now with a lot of the players going down hurt, the Noel Bolter incident happened as well. So that's put a big cloud over the club, over him as well. So look, we're not even getting the best of Bolter because of his own doing. So maybe going into next year, it could be a totally different thing. Look, we might even have Lynch next year as well. Like another report was he was going to get a contract. Does the suspension change that? Does it change the view on the club on him as well? But I just think Ooze, if you're going to go off 1 year, I know last year they say is his first year, but half the players were checked out that were leaving, and that hurt because we were playing them. Probably didn't know they were checked out, but they were. And this year it's just a bunch of 18-year-olds that are probably showing more than we ever thought, considering, if we think about it now, we drafted 8 players. Can anyone turn and say these 8 players haven't showed signs of being able to make it in the AFL? Which never happens.
Yeah. Has there been progress this year? I think you have to say categorically yes. Even though the last month has not felt like it, it's 1 game more than last year. And I truthfully, hand on heart, believe that if the Richmond of last year played those last 4 games we've had this year, that they would have rolled over and lost by 150.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact we've not lost a game by over 100 yet, given some of the circumstances, is a small tick for me.
Yeah.
And the fact that we've been able to sort of keep persisting in games, and we've not been these teams' biggest winning margin as well. And I know that's like maybe clutching at some straws, but it's still a positive of some nature in a somewhat otherwise bleak set of games. And I think we have to also pay respect to the fact they were bloody good sides that are going to probably be in prelim finals at minimum. And we're clearly not near there. We're 16 weeks in versus 7 to 8 years in. So it's a stark difference of where we're at. But I think there definitely has been progress from last year to this year. I guess what I think is going to happen is the back half of the year is definitely going to look worse than the first half of the year because of who we play, because of our own being tired, our own falling aways. And that's going to be the lasting vision and feeling for supporters' minds, where I think you've got to take a look at it in totality and really assess the whole thing, not just worry about the last block, because we did the same thing last year with individual players. So make sure when you're viewing the season, look at the whole thing, not just the last segment, because it is going to look a lot uglier in the back half than what it did the front half. And that's the nature of the beast. But that needs to then drag on a bit next year. Like next year, you want to get over halfway where you're still really competitive, and then you're probably going to fall off, and then longer and longer.
Well, this is a I think this is officially our biggest loss of the year, and it's round 17. So, look, North Melbourne and West Coast have had games where they've lost by 100, and it came after half time. So, like, take into account of those two clubs are meant to be ahead of us in the rebuild, and they've had multiple games where their opposite team has bet them by over 100 or close to 100, and all it took was a quarter and a half to kick that score. So I know there have been a few times it's been close, and people say that the clubs take their foot off the gas, but we also didn't take our foot off the gas as well. So it's showing you that the players still want to actually trying to win these games. It's not like last year where I think it felt like they were just going out there to get a paycheck and that was it. I don't want people to assume that after half a year that the rest of the year is going to be the same. I would love it to be the same. I would love for us to go up against good teams, have close games, win 3 more. But in reality, that's not where we're at right now. Maybe next year, that's probably what our goal can be. You win 2 or 3 at the first half, and you win 2 or 3 at the end of next year. To then me, that's when you can say, okay, well, they're doing the right progress. I think the best way to adjust us for next year is percentage-wise. That's what Fagan used to use when he first came into Brisbane.
Good point.
Yeah, it goes, what's your percentage at the end of the year every year? I think at the start it was 50, then it was 55, then it was like 60, high 60s, and then, going into their building, when they got Hodge and those sort of players into the system, they'll get into the 80s and 90s. So then you look what they are now. So it's just, unfortunately, baby steps. It hurts, but unfortunately, we're not lucky like Collingwood and Geelong, where everybody just wants to come to us no matter what, and we somehow can, manipulate the payroll and manipulate the draft so that players will just come to us, whether you take what we give you or you get nothing, and we just take them in the national draw, the national draft, or the rookie draft later on. So,
seen a few questions raised about next year. So on the back half of the season, does it change your mind with how we should approach the trade/draft period? Like, do we still go in and get another 2 kids, or are we best served to try and find a couple more experienced players using those picks? Does the mindset change, or are we better off? I personally, after watching some more champs, I really do think we need a Josh Lindsay in to use the ball off half back, gun kick of the ball.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be against the second pick being used to try and get a player in.
Yeah.
If it fits our need.
I do agree, maybe you need a bit of both. I am all for Josh Lindsay. I think he'd be a great duo with Sam Banks in that halfback.
I think so too.
But yeah, it all depends on, I think, bringing in somebody with experience. I think that also depends on who leaves at the end of the year. If we don't see Prestia stay, we don't see Lynch stay, McIntosh goes, then yes, because between those players, there's close to 1,000 games walking out the door again. For 2 years in a row, we've had nearly 3 years in a row. So if you think of it that way, then yes, definitely all for that. I'm also for the whole say you can get Josh Lindsay and then you trade your other pick to split it to, say, someone like Essendon. Then you can still do the same thing. You can still get a young player, experienced player, and then trade away another pick to get later picks, because we also have Callaway, and then next year we also have a lot of NGA and father and son. So
yeah, true.
This year, I don't know if many guys know, but we only have pick 2 and 3 in this year's draft. We don't have a second, third, or fourth. They're all gone in other trades. So you're going to need to bring in some. And with the amount of players we have in that system coming in next year, the following year, the father and son and all that stuff is getting stricter now. So it used to be 20% discount. Now it's 10. Not surprised by next year. It's nothing. And like you've reported with the Walker as well, Cody Walker coming in could be coming to Richmond. I know it's not guaranteed, but there's talk of him being a top 5. So as much as I would say, yeah, take the 2 young players now, there's such talent coming our way that is just coming to us and no one else can get them. Also need to work out on how to get that into our club as well, because Callaway's meant to be good. From all the reports that I've seen that you've give out, it looks like he's going to be a really good player.
Yeah, maybe a good foot soldier player for sure.
Yeah, you're going to have to do something like that. And some of these players we have might want to leave as well.
Yeah, there'll be some changes.
Yeah,
that have to be made.
There's a lot
for
to
sure.
go on. I feel bad for bloody what's his name, the recruiters at the end of the year and managers.
I know, it's a big job for them.
Yeah.
Peter, we lost by 72 to Port Adelaide. 72 to Port.
I didn't think it was. I think it was close. I think it got out to 90. And I'm pretty sure Harry Armstrong just kicked 2 or 3 goals by himself in that last quarter.
Well, plenty of
cool.
interesting time to come. Any other final thoughts, Shannon?
Just try and find the good things out of the bad guys, because there's going to be more bad than there is good. But first year, so let's just make sure we look for the good things and don't bash our players too much. I don't want to end up like Carlton.
No, that's a good point.
Our players. Yeah,
that's the thing. That's actually a good message. Like, it's okay to be frustrated and annoyed by losses, but definitely don't turn on the players and the club, because unlike them, there's an expectation on them to be winning games and in the top 4 and things like that. We all need to be more realistic about where we're at. Next year's going to be as painful, so let's not be disillusioned by that, whether we like it or not. It's just how it's going to be. But hopefully we still need to see progression. But as long as we don't turn on each other and the club,
just show some respect.
Buckle in and enjoy. Hopefully we get some enjoyment out of the next 2 games that maybe we can be involved in a bit more.
Let's be honest,
yeah. Well, it's all about tomorrow. The VFL. The VFL tomorrow is where it's at.
Or next week. I think we should just call him Taj, the Prince of Richmond.
Prince.
He's going to be a star, so he could be in next week. So there's more exciting things to come. There's players we haven't even seen play that are coming back. So
fingers
be
crossed.
Excited as well.
That's it. Well, thank you, Shannon, for your time tonight, mate. And congratulations again on the wedding. And,
thanks, mate. Anytime.
We'll speak to you soon, no doubt.
Right, mate. Gotcha.
See you, mate. Oh, I don't like how it makes me go full big screen there. Yes, now I know we don't expect wins, but like I said before, Richmond, if you look at the entire season, not just the last 4 games, we have shown progression. I don't think we can deny that. We've won more games with 1,600 games less experience in the side. So I think if we look at it in total, there's progression there, but the last month or so maybe just sour what that all looked like previously and maybe takes away from the good work, because everyone's tiring, fatiguing. We're losing players left, right, and center. We've got a makeshift forward line. So all I'm saying is, don't let what happens from now or what happened in the last month and the rest of the season, don't let that overshadow what we saw at the start of the season when we were competitive, because I think it would be extraordinarily unrealistic to expect us to be in games and show progression all the way through a season on a weekly basis. It just won't happen with the team we've got at the stage we're at. We'd love to see it. It's just not realistic. We're always going to start off the first half of the year well and then probably tail away. That's just how it rolls, unfortunately, with a young side. But like I said, don't let what you see in this last month or so and whatever dishearten you. We played against some gun sides, and they're 6 to 7 years ahead of us, like years. We're not talking months. They're a long way ahead of us. So we'll strive to get there. It'll be a rough ride, and hopefully we can see. Look, and is it sleeping most quarters? I don't know. I think we've got to give credit to the opposition that we've played, though. Like, good teams like Geelong, Adelaide, or Bulldogs, they need to be able to do what they've done in those games to take the game away in a quarter. If they weren't doing that, they should be very concerned about their own football. So they were doing what they should be doing. It's frustrating from our perspective, but like I said, the silver lining is that in the second half of today, for example, it's 5-7, and we win the last quarter, where it could have quite easily been 15-1 and a 150-point loss. So there's multiple ways to look. It doesn't make it any less frustrating. I get it, though. But JR, we'll bring you to the stage. How are you, mate? I've got a bit of dirt in my eye as well, which is nice. But how are you, buddy? You going well?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'll echo those thoughts, because even the top sides are getting a good belting here and there too. So no one is in every single game. That could be
that's
far
right.
worse. Just on the Carlton thing, I'll echo those thoughts, because in the last year, I reckon I've seen 4 separate videos of them abusing their players as they're walking down the race after the game. That's just pathetic behaviour, and we really need to make sure we don't stoop to that level.
I don't think I've seen that happen yet for us, which is good. I think even in some of our crappier losses, I often still do see supporters clapping and cheering, which I really respect and appreciate, because the players obviously don't want to have results like that. But I never want to see us doing what the Blue supporters are doing. Although, I mean, even I look at the chat tonight and even all of the videos and whatnot, I do firmly believe that our supporters have a really good understanding of where things are at. And I suppose from a Carlton perspective that their expectations were naturally and fair enough and rightly a lot higher than ours. But still, don't treat your players like that.
Yeah, that's true. Plus, with us as well, the club has been very open over summer about where we are and what we're doing. So this is what we've been expecting. And I just had a look at the line for our game today on Wheelo. It was 10 goals. So we've essentially lost by 2 extra goals over that. So
Okay,
we're roughly where we are expected to be.
It was about the mark. Here's a question for you from Enzo. Why don't Geelong or Collingwood bottom out? And it's a good question. Like, the Cats haven't, whilst they've not had the ultimate success as frequently as maybe we did during that purple patch, they seem to always be thereabouts, don't they?
Yeah, well, the Cats have an insider doing the rule changes, and then they run back to the club with the CEO. That helps. And Collingwood's a destination club. And yes, they're very old at the moment, but we'll see how they are in a couple of years' time.
Helps when they get a day cost for free. Jesus, how lucky is that?
Oh, yeah. When I had a look at their list the other day, pondering the same thing. And I think this year, their top-rated 10 players, 6 of them are 30 plus.
Yeah.
So
right.
You've got to think at some point that's even if they stick around, they're not going to perform to their current level. And those coming through are going to have to step up when those guys do step aside and hang the boots up. So it's just their time at the top, and they've got to cash in while they're there.
Yeah, but it's still a good point. Like, it'd be nice to strive to do that. Sydney are probably another one that have hung around. I know they had a bit of a dip this year a little bit, but they've been another one that typically sort of hangs around, the finals. So, I mean, I reckon the key differences is I think those clubs have maybe done a bit better targeted trading than what we have. I think draft-wise, everyone's somewhat even and relative, but I think it's the plays they've been able to draw across via trade that they've really been able to fill their needs a lot better, which has helped keep them afloat. So shrewd work by them, no doubt.
Yeah, well, Sydney have also got their academy, which helps as well. No one can touch those kids. But on Collingwood, on a serious note, they've also, remember 2 years ago, they drafted in 4 B-grade players that we're all laughing at, guys like Bobby Hill, Dan McStay, guys like that. They've actually really been good for their side in the way that they've improved each of their positions. Like Bobby Hill, he was one player I've got wrong since he's gone there. He's become a gun.
And I think we need to identify some players like that in this off-season. I know there's always been the talk about the Reed and Butters of the world, but realistically, they're probably a very, very outside chance to happen. But it's the players that next rung down that can kind of fill a need at that 22 to 26 age gap. And I know that people won't like that might take minutes away from another youngster, and I can understand that. But in order for us to kind of bridge the gap between other teams and achieve a bit more consistency, I really do think we need to find upgrades on, like your Sonsies, on a Ross, on even a Hugo. We need to find some way to upgrade a couple of different players in the off-season that maybe they're from other clubs who need more opportunity. Someone mentioned, not in a link to the club way, but just as a player, would we be keen on Archie Perkins? Like players like that are doing okay at a club that maybe want more exposure, more minutes, is kind of where we might have to look.
Like Perkins looks to be a bit of a bust, if I'm honest. He was a first-round pick, although he was in the COVID draft, which isn't fair on the kids because they missed out on their entire junior year. So it's been very hard on those kids. That's the draft that Dow come from, and we've seen how long it's taken him to get to the level he's at.
Yeah, we're just going to pick the eyes out of it.
Yeah, although he's, in my view, he's performed at a level where he deserves to stay on the list. He's got a role, but it's taken him quite a while to get there. And I think from a development point of view, he's missing that whole year. You're more or less getting drafted and they're already behind the 8 ball.
Yeah. In terms of this one, Richmond, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, we're going to have a shitload of money to play with. If I don't know the real numbers, but if we think about it logically, we've got the Shea Bolton money, Dan Rioli money, Liam Baker money, Jack Graham money. Lynch's money will substantially change after this year as well. I know this year was, I think, his higher portion, but then after that, we have to renegotiate a new contract. So I think we're actually going to struggle with our list now to pay the 95%. So this is why I really do think that we are in the market to bring someone in this year in some capacity, whether it's free agency or trade, because we need to pay the money somewhere, and we can't just load up all the kids and dusty money as well. So I think cash-wise, it's not an issue. It's just trying to get the player across or players across. I mean, what would you rather, James? Would you rather do you go the one gun, the Harley Reid type, if hypothetically, if you wanted to come to us, or do you try and find maybe 2 or 3 B graders to fill various roles to get a bit more quantity in?
I personally would, if Harley did want to come across, I would do that deal. And you could front end his deal to within an inch of its life because of the way our cap is structured. Currently, the way you mentioned, because we've also got, I'm not sure if you mentioned, we've got Dion out of contract as well. So there's a fair chunk of money too. So we can front end that, and that won't hurt us in the future with the cap, because he would have got his money early. If he doesn't want to come across, I'm still in favour of drafting, because going forward, if our draftees are even half as good as we think they're going to be, there is going to be a financial cost to keep them all. And it would be silly to go all out for, say, a Harley Reid if in 2 or 3 years' time we've got to lose one of the others because the cap's too tight.
Yeah, and I back us in to be able to smooth those contracts over and manage the money accordingly, because we've done it before. But yeah, there's just some players that we've got to bring in. I just don't know who that player is at the moment. If anyone's got any suggestions, chuck them out there.
Because I'm also big on the fact that with our young kids, we've got to give them centre bounce time. Because I look at the stats again today, and we had Prestia, Hopper, and Ross, and no one.
So what did you make of that? So we obviously see an article last week or the week before from the club saying we're going to experiment with more different variations and things like that. And we've gone another 2 weeks post that it hasn't happened. So the last time we saw variation in the centre bounce was when Seth Campbell put himself in there. We've not seen a change since then.
Yeah, I think that might be partly due to the opposition. I wasn't overly expecting too much different today, but certainly against Essendon and West Coast, if we haven't got more names going through there than we have, that'll be a bit disappointing, because we have Houghton looks like he might debut next week, all going well. And I think the plan for Lawler was to get more midfield time as well, but unfortunately he went down in the opening minute, which can't be helped.
Oh, terrible.
Yeah, I know, that was so flattening that. I'm like, I know that took the wind. It took the wind out of supporters' sails. I can only imagine what that would have felt like for the players at the ground. I know it's their job to rise above that and do all that kind of stuff. But sort of to Enzo's point, we've now got a handful of games left. It's time we start seeing some things. Yep. I know we say it each week, and I think we're going to keep saying it until we see it. And I guess what's frustrating is when you see these midweek press conferences, the journos there probably aren't as in depth with the Richmond Football Club and the day-to-day or the week-to-week game stuff as what supporters are. So they don't ask these questions. So we'll never know the answer. But it's like, why? Why aren't we seeing different setups and different strategies? If you had to pick, let's say, 2 other players to go into the midfield moving forward for the rest of the year, if you're going to give them a 5-block game, who would you pick to go in there? Well, Sonzi would be one. I mean, I would love a journo to ask him that question. Why does he not play in the midfield? Considering we all see what he does in the VFL. And he's been okay lately, but he's not in his rightful position. Ross has been going in there more. Going forward, obviously, Smiley will be debuting at some stage shortly, within maybe a month. So hopefully he can get some time in there. Houghton as well. But that may not be straight away, given he's come back from a fairly lengthy fitness issue. But certainly we do need to change things up, because our current midfield is not doing the job.
They'll win some clearances of their own, but then it's the breakneck speed away from stoppage. We say it every week, and I apologise for it sounding like a broken record, but you look at how quick Max Holmes gets away from contests, and even Dangerfield, even though he's older, he's still got that explosive edge. And, almost, thank goodness, Bailey Smith wasn't playing, because he would have done a fair bit amount of damage as well. I don't know what the answer is to the blend. And I know we've spoken about, even with Tiggs on Wednesday night, that do we need to be open to offers as a club if someone was to knock on the door for a Hopper or a Taranto? Do we need to consider it, or are we biting the bullet and staying with them? I think there's a lot of different conversations to be had. And again, sort of to your point earlier, you don't want to cut too deep. If there are trades or movements to be had, you don't want to go down the path of losing another 500 to 1,000 games experience because it just won't be sustainable.
Yeah. It all depends on Prestia. If he's going on, I'd be open to trading one of them, but not two. Because again, we do need to give our kids midfield time, and also if we are going to draft 2 midfielders again this year, we've got to play them in there too.
And
there's
to be
no
fair to Prestia,
drafting them. And
yeah,
there you go.
Presti's done okay since coming back in. I think his output level's been acceptable. But look, as has Hoppers and Taranto's. This is where it gets really complicated, isn't it? Because, like we've said a few times, as individual players, their output's actually not so bad. It's just as a unit, there's just a little bit to be desired. Why would Reid come? Well, if he wants to leave, it's a lot to do with if he wants to leave West Coast this year, or if he wants to leave Perth and West Coast know this, then it's in West Coast's best interest to make him leave this year to get the biggest bang for their buck. And we just happen to hold the right currency to do that, as does Essendon. They would be a chance as well. They may be willing to pay more money than we would. I think Reid's got a relationship with some of the younger guys at our club because he's a very close in age with them. And yeah, I mean, you're selling him the long picture dream. I get that the now dream may not look as sexy as what it should, but look, he might ultimately pick to stay in West Coast. And if he does, he's probably going to get a pretty healthy payday, I would have thought.
Oh, he's going to get that anyway. But for us, if we are to get him, it has to be this year because if there's other clubs that get the mail that he wants out at the end of next year, they can position themselves. And a lot of other clubs are in a better position performance-wise than we are, and therefore will be more attractive.
What about the rest of the game today? We obviously had a bit of the second quarter. What do you think went wrong in the second quarter? Is it a lot to do with us, a lot to do with the Cats, a combination of both? How did you see the second quarter for today?
They were pretty good and we were pretty poor. We have one bad quarter every week still, and that was our one today. I think overall, looking at the last 4 weeks, I think we've had our big boy months because Fox Footy have really grabbed onto that through Dimmer, which is exciting because they show the footage of us up there in 29 and getting the Premiership Cup. But we've learned some pretty good lessons from pretty decent sides, and our losing margins have been consistent. So for me, that's how I see our floor, and going forward, we'll be looking for those to minimise next year. So instead of losing by 10 to 12 goals, it'll be 8 to 10 will be what should be our worst ones, ideally.
I feel this. I'm glad you've said that because I kind of feel the same. That I don't like 70 to 80 point margins, but the fact that it's been consistent across some top 4 teams, and granted, it's because teams have taken their foot off, but you can only do what you can do, I guess, from our perspective. That now the challenge is next year. How do we reduce that gap a bit further? How do we get a little bit closer in 2026 and beyond?
Well, I think game plan wise, I'm hoping we add a plan B and C onto it. And that could have been the second quarter too, because like you guys have mentioned, we've got a plan A and not much else. They obviously adjusted to that, and then we fell away because we don't seem to have another way. And that could well be because over summer they get limited amount of time with the players. So they've got to skip over things and focus on the fundamentals. Ideally, next year we can add some extra details onto those, and that when sides do adjust in that way, the way that they did today, that we can counter that with other ways of going about things. Yeah,
we're definitely going to have to add another layer. I think that's going to be the number one thing that supporters are looking out for next year is a different method, a different avenue, a different type of play, something that we can mesh into what we're doing now to give us a few different options and variations that make us just that bit harder to pick apart. We're still going to cop some bad beats next year for sure, but we need to be able to have some different avenues and some different ways. How do you think we went today? Obviously, no Lynch. Do you think we became a little bit less predictable? I actually thought we lowered our eyes for chunks of the game, and we looked a lot better doing it, especially in transition. But we actually just dropped the bloody ball at the pointy end. Like Bolton just missed the mark completely. Jasper put one down as well. We probably just left 4 or 5 good chances on the board after we did the right thing and lowered the eyes.
Yeah, Yeah, I think, and that's one thing we can learn from Geelong because they're very good at that. You look at that Myers, and he's got a weird kicking action, but he actually hits the low kicks. He doesn't actually kick it. I'm not sure I don't recall the last time I've seen him kick 150 metres inside 50. It's always a short 20-odd metre kick to a leading target. That's what we need to start doing.
They're just
and as for
flat
Bolter,
lasers, aren't they?
Yeah, he's a very good kick. And as for Bolter, if he wasn't having a holiday for the next 2 weeks, I reckon I'd drop him after today anyway. It's the old can't bowl, can't catch, can't throw. Doesn't matter what he does, he doesn't seem that good at it. He's got no confidence. You can see that right away. And I know
one thing I did like from him today,
getting the better of him, I think.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, he fought hard, which was good, but it still wasn't as much as what we knew. Look, if he wasn't down there doing what he did, I reckon we struggled to score as many goals as we ended up scoring. So that's something. The one thing I did like from him, I think he ended up with the ball in one pocket, and he kicked it about 55 metres over the wall of players in the middle of the 50 to Morris, who marked. And I just thought that type of kick is exactly why he can be a weapon. And that's what I'm sort of long-term envisioning that Jaden Short can help us do as well. If he comes back and plays half forward, if he gets the ball on those in one side of the ground, he can clear that middle raft of players that line the leading lanes and get it to someone else over the top. And I think that could be an advantage if we use it correctly.
Yeah, I think Bolter, just needs some confidence. He looks like he doesn't have any. Like we've clearly got too many players at the moment that are out of form, and I think confidence is a big part of that. Because when the second quarter unfolds, I was sitting there watching that thinking, oh, here we go again. I can imagine our players would be thinking that as well. And if you're up forward where he was, you can't really have an impact because the ball's down the other end.
Yeah. And that's why it was good today to see Morris get involved because when he came on, I guess a lot of us were probably worried that he was going to spend time a lot deeper. And if he did that, he would have been well and truly out of the game. So to see him play up a lot higher and get involved, same as Seth Campbell with 19 touches, I think we want to see that in all games, whether we're in them or not in them, whatever it might be. They need to be up and around the contest and trying to generate disposals.
Yeah, Morris was fantastic. I reckon that's the best game he's played for the club.
Easily. It was his confidence coming out of the back line, hitting his targets. And even between he, Mansell and Campbell, they had some really good springboard link-up plays down the wing. And Geelong were finding it hard to kind of keep up with that. But then we'd let ourselves down with sometimes that final entry. But the movement and the speed at which they were able to move the ball was good. Speaking of Mansell, what did you think of his game? I know you said Morris is best for the club. Was Mansell close as well? 22 disposals and 3 goals?
Yeah, he was unreal. He was our highest rated player today at 18.9. I've got that up here now. Morris was 16.6. I think that's easily his best. Mansell had been quiet for a little while, so it was good to see him get on the end of a few.
Well, at one stage, he'd kicked our entire score.
Yeah, I know.
I think he kicked our first 3 goals. And it's quite remarkable in some ways because the way that game unfolded, that's typically a game where Mansell and Seth Campbell and Morris would typically end up going missing because of the lack of ball coming down our way. So I think if they've now found another way to get involved, that could be a good developmental progress for them.
Yeah, well, Uze mentioned in his presser after the game that because Lawler was out, those guys actually got to go up to stoppage instead of Lawler, as he would have been doing. So therefore, they were more involved, they were more around the contest. And he said it was good to have a different look at things. So hopefully that's made him think, hang on, let's try things in the midfield. Yeah, give those guys a run through because they're all quick. They offer something different our midfielders don't have currently.
So for everyone in chat watching,
get some speed in there.
Yeah. And I'd love to see everyone's opinions on this in chat, but I'm sure everyone would have been thrilled to see Morris and Seth and Mansell up and around stoppages at different parts of the ground. I think it just has a different dynamic to it, but more of it, please. What did you make of our tackling game today? I felt we kind of that's probably the part of the game I feel we've regressed in for the last few weeks. It shouldn't matter about the opposition in a lot of ways with tackling, but I feel like the tackles have been broken a lot more. They're getting through and being able to get easy release handballs. And obviously we had only the one tackle inside forward 50, which is pretty shit. But do you reckon we've gone backwards a fraction in that part of our game? It seems to be not as strong as it once was.
We have lately. I thought today was pretty good. Our first quarter was right up there in terms of pressure. I was happy with that. Afterwards, second quarter, no. After that, I think we got a bit better, but second quarter is not hard to improve on. But overall, I think we have, because we've played some better sides, they're better at hitting targets, which takes away the ability to tackle as well, which doesn't help.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been frustrating. I'll turn Peter's comment into a question for you. What have you made of, or what did you make of Jacob Blight's game?
Not too sure. He did drop a couple of marks, which he would normally take. But he's the backs are pretty well under siege, so they've got a fair bit of work to do. But he's certainly worth persisting with. Whether or not he wants to stay at the club, we don't know. If not, we'll certainly play him up. Certainly up until Gray's ready to return.
Yeah, so probably a couple of weeks away from that still.
Yeah.
Grant, to answer this one, VFL game is tomorrow at Geelong, so GMHBA again at 12:05 p.m. We'll be doing a live watch along for that. So if anyone wants to join in the stream tomorrow at 12:05 to watch Taj Houghton and Jaden Short and Josh Gibcus back out in the park, feel free to tune in for that. But probably not a bad thing they're playing on a proper oval as opposed to some of the other places that we play.
Yeah, it's not a bad backline we've got named for a VFL side.
I'm actually going to be fascinated to see. I haven't. I don't know whether to go with Houghton or Gibcus.
Gibcus will be hard because he'll be playing managed minutes. Houghton will be playing pretty much a full game.
Yeah, I think I might go Taj again for that one. I'll be really interested to see where Jaden Short lines up tomorrow, because I think we've talked about this before, but it's interesting because I don't know whether there's a spot for him in halfback at AFL level. So if the coaching staff at AFL level don't think there is, I'd really love to see him play half forward tomorrow or wherever else, whether it's in the midfield, half forward, to see what that looks like at that level before coming back into AFL, because I really don't see him booting out Banks from that halfback job.
No, I'm not moving Banks at all. He's locked in for however long he wants to play on. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what they do, because we named Bolter back in the seniors and he lined up forward. So I dare say they'll have something up their sleeve that they're not letting out yet. Half forward wouldn't be a bad thing.
Yeah, I would like to see him at half forward for sure. Has what happened to Lawler affect how cautious we are? I don't think it should, John. I mean, maybe it does from a supporter's perspective, but they're different. They're different injuries. I'll say the word. They're different recoveries.
We may as well. They're starting to get them.
I mean, typically, so with the ACLs, they're more impact and twisting based, soft tissue a little bit different. Yeah. And it's so confusing because it feels like we've definitely held players back, and they've said they've held players back for a lot longer than what they usually would. Like, was the Lawler one just a sheer stroke of bad luck, or is there more to it? I mean, I truthfully don't think we would have played him underdone. I really don't believe that for a second. But it's just, is there just a lack of strength there?
Yeah, from what Uze said, it was in a tackling thing. It doesn't matter what mechanism it was, that was still going to go. So like Harry Armstrong, his was a 12-weeker. That was apparently done in a tackle as well, where his leg had sort of stretched out a bit far, and it happened then. So you can't do much about those.
So were they saying that's
it's just frustrating because
so that's not a regulation one. So they're saying that's different to what you would get from a running. So it's more the contortion of the. Interesting.
Because he tackled the guy over the line, and then he came on, and then I saw him limping, and we knew straight away what that was. So I think it was from that. And by the sound of it, from Caesar's training report, when it happened, Harry's was the same. It was in a tackle, the leg had stretched out a bit more than it usually did, because he tried to break a tackle or something, and of course he stretched doing that. So it's basically a contact injury. Not to
diminish the severity of it, but you'd almost be more understanding of that, and it doesn't really. It removes the liability, if you want to call it that, on the fitness team if that was just an impact and movement incident that you can't help, rather than if he was running in a straight line and it went again, then you'd be like, hang on, what have he done here? I think that makes it a little bit interesting. Grant, I'll answer this one again for you. Richmond are 8th in the VFL. And we playing Geelong.
Yeah, they're outside the 8. They're outside
Why
the
can't I
10.
see them? Oh, they're 15th. They're 15th. So we are on 32 points. We've won 8 games, lost 4. They have won 5 and lost 7, and they've lost their last one, and we've won our last one. So it should be an interesting game. So Harry Armstrong's a test, for next week. So hopefully he can get back out in the park at VFL level against the Bombers. And obviously we've got Gibcus and Hotton tomorrow.
He was crooked this week, from what I understand. It's
Harry
not
Armstrong?
related to his. He had the flu or something.
Which is, not good that he's had the flu, but just good that it's not related to the hamstring. Here's a question from Jake for you. Who do you see us picking out as the next captain after Nank, and how long do you think it is until that transition happens with captaincy?
It'll be within the next year or two. I wouldn't mind seeing Banks.
Banks? I haven't heard that one before. Okay.
Yeah. Maybe not at this age, but I would have him certainly maybe our next vice captain under someone else who's maybe a bit old, maybe Taranto for a couple of years until. Yeah, I'll go Taranto with Banks as your vice captain, and then Banks will be the next captain after that.
Yeah, interesting. Okay.
I wonder,
did Banks captain or do anything leadership-wise in his underage years? I haven't really looked into that from his perspective.
I don't recall, to be honest, but he was known for his leadership ability.
Okay. Yeah, interesting. There's definitely a bit of a goal for a bit of a gap after Taranto, I think. There's you know how some clubs you've got that real obvious choice. I don't think we've got that at the moment until these young crops sort of come. Yeah, that's right. Koch, you could see from a mile away he was going to be captain. Maybe we pulled the trigger earlier, but it worked out okay in the end. Yeah, it will be interesting. But when do you think that happens? How long do you think Nank's got left? I thought he played an okay game again today, except for that kick that was shit out of defence. But
he's not alone there, though. But I did.
No, he's not.
He's not. Nank, you better than that. No.
Yeah.
I'll probably have Nank as captain again for next year, and then after that, it might shift. But if he wanted to let it go at the end of this year to focus on his footy at his age, then that's up to him. But I would keep him again next year if you wanted to as captain. Who would you have?
I think I would agree with that. If he wanted to do it again next year, I would be okay with that. Taranto felt like the next option. I know that Broad and Vlosten were probably in the conversation as well, but they're probably of the same age as Nank. Like if Nank was to hand it over and it went to one of them, that would kind of feel like a sideways step and not really a progressional step.
Yeah.
But maybe that has to do, maybe if they were to do it for a year or two, but is that productive? I don't know.
On Vlosten, I've never heard it officially, but I've heard it around by plenty that he's never wanted to be the captain.
I heard that too.
I've never heard that officially, though. I've just heard it around.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting to see what we do. As long as we don't do the dual captaincy stuff, I don't think people are overly keen on that. What did you make of Sonzi's game? I'm trying to bring up players' names who kept getting a lot of mentions. What did you make of his?
Yeah, Sonzi. I didn't think it was too bad. He did a lot of those blind handballs, which I did notice in traffic.
There was a lot of those, wasn't there? Some worked, some didn't.
Yeah. It was channeling Shane Edwards for a while there.
Yeah,
he had 17 disposals, 88 disposal efficiency, 168 metres gain. That'll be all those handballs. I didn't think he was too bad. But again, I want to see him play in the midfield. What have we got to lose? We've got 7 games now. Let's prep these guys to hit the ground running next year. And that way, if he and anyone else step up in the midfield, then it might make some decisions easier at the end of the year regarding what we do with the guys playing in there now.
It's interesting that he went at 88%. I didn't know he was that high. I think it's the physical side of his game, though, that I think let himself down a little bit today. He
had 17 disposals and 5 contested. So that probably, if you used to play midfield, that would need to go higher.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's it.
And CBA's a total of 0.
I know. It was the same 4. Same 4.
Have you seen the numbers from today?
I think, didn't Taranto and Hopper have like 23 or 24?
Yeah, well, if you take out the rucks, Geelong had 6 midfielders go through there,
Yeah.
and we had 4. We had Hopper at 79, Prestia 79, Prestia 79, Taranto 76, and Ross was 66, and then nothing. Sims was next at 14, but he's a ruck and no one else. We need to get another couple in there in the rotation.
We definitely do. We definitely do. Matt, when are the coaches going to teach the forwards how to lead up at the ball? Falls, Sims, and Elgar are just not up to it. They're doing the head in. I reckon you're being a bit harsh there, Matt, especially on Jasper, who was on one leg from quarter time. Watching the game after quarter time when he come back on, he was hobbling and was essentially tasked to stand next to Tom Stewart and make sure he didn't intercept Mark, was basically what he was asked to do. I reckon Jonty Fall is leading up at the ball okay. He just hasn't been clunking them. Sims probably just didn't find himself in good spots there, did he? He took a couple of chest marks leading up through packs, but I guess it's a little bit of a victim of our system in a lot of ways. They'll get there, though. Like, they'll learn the leading patterns and they'll be able to break through. But I think it's easy to sometimes forget that they're playing on, in today's case, premiership defenders, right? They're not playing on hacks down the road. They're playing on some quality opponents. So I think we've got to be mindful of that as well. And they'll get better as it gets on. Jonty just needs that real confidence from his conversion, doesn't he? I mean, I'm glad he got that goal in the end. I think he desperately needed that for his own headspace. It'd just be nice if we could get some more shots at goal closer to home. I'm finding that he's taking a lot of shots from about 65, and he can boot the ball a bloody long way, but the chances of them going in are just not high at all.
Was it him in the first quarter? I think he had one he kicked it from 55 and he hit the fence on the full behind the goal.
He smashed it. He absolutely smoked it.
Yeah.
Effortlessly.
Have you seen Uzo's presser?
No.
Did you see? Okay. He said that Elgar rolled his ankle right at the beginning of the game.
Yep.
Like a bad one. He played out, of course, but he might need a scan to see how he is, but he should be okay. And Brown the same, but his wasn't so bad.
Yeah, you could tell that he wasn't right. Brown definitely got into the game a bit better than what Jasper did, but he couldn't move. He pretty much went back out there because he didn't want to leave us another one short. Yeah,
that's what Uzo said. It was credit to the kid because he didn't want to go off once Lawler had been out. So they're only rolled ankles. They should be okay. It's nothing to be too concerned about. But with
I reckon Jasper might struggle for next week, to be honest. I think only because he played on it for another 4 quarters. It could be tough.
Yeah, I've done that playing basketball. He'll have a balloon there tomorrow morning. The bone that sticks out of your ankle on the side. He won't see that tomorrow.
No, he definitely won't.
And if it's as bad as it sounds, it might be all sorts of funky colours too. So he may not want to look at it. But on Fall, I think he just needs a game where he kicks a couple of goals just to get that little man off the shoulder when he's lining up.
Yeah, because what's his ratio is not good, is it? Like it's something like I'm making up a figure here, but it could be like 6-17 or something. Yeah, it's
5-13.
It's getting
and you see him,
a bit lopsided.
And you see him when he misses his shots, he drops his head back as well. I think he's a bit of a confidence player in that regard. That's why I think if he nails a couple early, he'll have a breakout game. Hopefully that's next week.
I don't know how we can at all manufacture this, but you would love him to kick like the first goal of the game. Just the crowd gets right up and around him, takes a big mark, kicks a big goal. Yep. I think that'd do his confidence the world of good, but it's easier said than done to do that.
His marking's fine. For
and his ground level work's good too. His ground level work's equally as good. He's just he'll get better as the years get on. Do we agree that we lose too many 50-50s when the ball's up for grabs? I reckon we do. I can
give you one with clearances. In today's game, we had first possession to clearance. We had 40 each, us and Geelong, but they beat us by, I think, 9 clearances. So we're getting the ball. We're just not getting it to a target inside. That's our issue with clearances at the moment. But as far as contested ball goes, I'm not too sure. But I did notice that there were a few contested balls where they got it and the ball would spill out and they had 2 of their guys that our none. They just happened to get it to where their guys were.
I think the guys who are going in for the one-on-one compete okay. But what happens
Yeah.
is the players on the outside, we either don't get enough numbers to the contest or we get too many numbers to the contest and it goes over the top into the outside where they've got the numbers and they're away. I just don't think we've got the right balance and cohesion at that part yet. And that's just a learning and development thing. Like I'm sure we all remember, but in our 2017 to 2020 days, we had that down to a fine art. Who would commit to what contest? We would have the numbers on the outside. The ball spills out with just a random hit, chaos, and away we go. We're just not at that understanding and level yet. It'll get there, but so I reckon the guys going into the contest do okay at times. We definitely do lose our fair share for sure, but I think we just get more exposed by the other numbers at the contest and them being utilised better by the other team.
Yeah, that's all part of learning to play together as a team. And going back to the Shane Edwards reference earlier, in those big games, he would often handball over his shoulder, and there were two blokes on their own of ours to no opposition, and we're away. And that makes him look even better than he was too. And
that's right.
As you say, our guys will get there. Once they learn to play as a team, that's what the 50 game number is. We had 11 under 50 today. So once they all get to 50, they'll be able to do that because they'll instinctively know where their teammates are and also the opposition.
Did you see Jasper's game last week though, Matt? Let's not judge today's game because he was on one foot just trying to do a solid for us. But a couple of goals last week, got into the right spots, moves nicely, attacks the ball. I think he'll be a player. Obviously, we want to see it more often.
On player ratings, Elgar last week had the same same score as what Lawler has averaged for the year. That shows you how well he played.
He was good last week. Just obviously couldn't get going this week if he was cooked before the game even started.
Yeah, well, you roll an ankle. It's a horrible thing to play on because you're limited in your movement. You can feel the fluid building up in your leg. And you just got to keep running on it. So I've done it playing basketball quite a few times. It's not great, and it does hinder how you can move. And at that level,
it really
Sims
with the 7 possessions. Yeah, Peter, Sims is one that form's definitely kind of dropped off a little bit, hasn't it? I mean, he had that really good GWS game where he had the 7 marks, 3 contested, but then he's kind of been out of a lot more games than in. But I think, Peter, I reckon he's just being played a bit more at the moment out of necessity to back up ruck for Nank. I'm guessing that we just didn't want to go down the path of having to use Bolter or Blight again this week, and that's why he came in. But I suppose that raises the question then, is it worth seeing what Hayes Brown could do in that same type of role, given he's a bit more physically developed? Or is there not much of a difference, so we're better off just rolling with Sims and getting the experience? Like, is there a benefit to doing one or the other?
I personally would rather give Sims the experience. And also keep in mind with our forwards, our delivery is rubbish, so there's not much our forwards can do.
It's not much.
It's high along every time. There's not a lot they can do. And with Hayes Brown, I'd like to see him back up last week's performance in the VFL, and he's a ruck and a ruck only. So if he's playing, that's his spot. I wouldn't play him if he's playing forward.
It's so hard because the experience for Sims is going to be beneficial long term. It just comes back to, like, I know that Lynch and Lafau being out, I think really enabled him to come back in as well. But I still do stand by that as a team, we'll always struggle a bit more if we're relying on Sims and Fall at the same time to be the 2 big men. And obviously Bolt is a bit of a makeshift forward at the moment. Do you think he went okay from a competitive standpoint? And obviously he's going to miss the next 2 weeks, or the next week at least. Who do you think takes Bolter's spot as the main forward in his absence? Like, I know we're kind of picking names out of a hat here, but who would you have go down there?
I'm thinking it'll be a shootout tomorrow. If Bauer can have a blinder, he can come in. But as far as ideally you want an experienced body, we don't have one because they're both out at the moment. I mean, Lynch is always going to be there alone. I think Bauer would be the option, but he's not right.
I think the next biggest, like physically, size-wise, mature body we probably have is probably Cozzy, if we're being honest. Whether or not he's the right answer, I don't know. If he's the one who has to come in, then so be it. Like, I would actually be actually supportive of him because I think I'm really proud of what he's done for us at VFL level. Be it Tyler Young or Cozzy could be next in. I just think, I know Bauer is a forward. I just don't think physically being able to compete in the air, I don't think he can do it the way we need it to happen. Whereas I think Cozzy, weirdly enough, will be disciplined enough to bring the ball to ground and to actually make a contest. He might not kick any goals himself, but I think he'll be more disciplined to spoil and bring it to ground if we have to.
Yeah. Well, it's a 2-week assignment, so while Bolt
Yeah,
is out, I'll give
true.
you another option. We've done it early this year. We played Blight forward, and Cozzy can come in down back, or Young if he's ready.
That's true. That's another bit of flexibility that we could try
Young
as well.
has been
So
really
there's
good the
a
last
couple of
2
options.
weeks. It's just a matter of match fitness.
Yeah. He definitely has been. I think he had like 10 marks last week. Obviously got a couple of goals. So,
Yeah.
I mean, who do you think plays better forward as a makeshift forward, Blight or Young? I mean, you would have to guess Blight, but either way, if it's not working in game, you can just swap it. So, agree, Justin. The Lafau injury did hurt. The timing of it, I mean, to lose him and Lynch like that, because hypothetically, if we had have just lost Lynch, Lafau could have kept playing like he was last year as the main forward, and things kind of still track okay and feel a bit more normal. But when you lose both at the same time, it's like shit. It's not ideal at all.
Got another option. We drop down to 2 tall forwards and we play a small there in their place. That's another option because we have 3 talls all year. I know it's for experience for the kids, but we can always drop one and go a small forward. I think we've done it for one game this year and it didn't quite work, but it's worth a shot. I mean, our forward line's not exactly functioning that well as it is.
No, there's really honestly nothing to lose. It probably depends on what the Bombers' backline looks like. I think Reed might be missing for them potentially with a hamstring.
Yeah, he's
so
hurt himself.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure if they brought in another big defender or not, or what they look like. So maybe, and maybe Bauer can work then from a size perspective as well. I mean, look, I think Bauer's had an improved month of football to the month prior, but you want to, if he has a good game tomorrow, if he kicks 2 or 3 and competes really well, I think he'd be a good chance, depending on, I suppose, the Essendon back line.
Well, the other part too is I'm assuming he's out of contract and give him a chance to play for his career. If he comes in and plays well, he can stay next year. If not, well, there's our answer.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a chance to. Lynch has really given us a chance to look at our tall stocks and establish a pecking order. Because I assume that there might be players that might want to move on at the end of the year for game time because there might be some clubs that need talls.
Yeah.
So it's a chance for us to look at what we've got.
And as we said
certainly
earlier,
don't need
shit timing on Fawcett.
Yeah, I know. But he's signed up for next year, so that's all good.
Yeah, he is. Samson Ryan's an interesting one, isn't it? I know he's not playing because he's playing a fasciitis. But where do you see him in the pecking order now?
I've got no idea. Behind Sims, I think, but
because he's still contracted for another couple of years.
Ryan's up. He's next year, so he's he might be done for this year, but hopefully a full preseason. He can prove himself next year. But if he doesn't next year, that might be all he gets.
Yeah, could be. Yeah, we're going the chaos ball inside forward 50. I think why not? Just grubber it in there. Who cares? Get in there any way possible. What are you expecting tomorrow from the VFL? Maybe not so much result-wise, but obviously we've got Gibcus playing, limited minutes. What are we hoping for?
Everybody.
I think there's only really one ultimate aim.
Yeah, we've had enough issues today. We've lost we've got 4 players under a cloud, and certainly one of them won't be. He won't be. He might actually be done for the year if it's that bad.
Lawler, I think he's done for the year.
Yeah.
I mean, even if he was half a chance to come back, just not risking it.
Uze did mention that we're going to give him something to do for the rest of the year. That does sound like, and then he said, then we'll see how long it's going to be. But that does sound like it might be season done anyway, and get him right for day 1 of preseason. Yeah, that's the aim with these guys. Like just day 1 of preseason, that's the aim.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens tomorrow.
But with the VFL, we do need to keep winning because we don't have a great percentage compared to those around us. And I would like to see them play finals just to get some experience at that intensity for the kids.
What's the qualification for finals? Because I suppose you want to make sure that some of these young kids are all qualifying as well, don't you?
Yeah, I don't know about games. They got that stupid wild card round in, which hasn't worked. Because
That's right.
they've done it for 2 years, and 9 and 10 have been belted out the first week. So I'm not
Grant,
sure
I
if
think you
there's
asked
a
before, could
qualification for
Geelong's win
games.
knock us off? Geelong are on 20 points. We're on 32. So no, that they can't knock us out. But Frankston could jump in because their percentage is higher than us. They're 11th on 28 points. So I'm not sure, I think, who or when they play. But if we lose and they win, they could bump us out. So our percentage is 97. Everyone else in the 10, which sounds weird, is over 100.
Yeah.
Do I still want Harley Reid? You're starting to think we should 100% take 2 picks to the draft and increase our quantity of potential elite players. I'm still so torn. I reckon I change my mind every day, Plet, to be honest. So on one hand, I really do think that getting someone like Harley Reid would help fast track our midfield substantially. If he wants to leave and come to us, of course, is the other caveat to that. And if there was a way that we could split one of the picks to get my priority for this year would be to take Josh Lindsay. I think we need to make sure we get him almost as a non-negotiable, but that relies on West Coast not taking him. I think they'll take Sharp and Duff Tytler personally. Josh Lindsay is one of the best kicks in the draft class off halfback, and as we all know, we need someone who can use the ball really, really well. So for me, I've got Lindsay as a non-negotiable, and then the second pick, if we can use that to split and get another 2 picks, then use that for a trade. Look, I don't know. Maybe it's not Harley Reid this year. Maybe it's we take Lindsay, split the second pick and take another youngster, but then trade the third pick for a mid-range player that we can slot into some part of the ground that's another 23 to 26-year-old. I don't know who that might be, but if we can somehow get Lindsay, another young, like a Grill even, and then trade the other one, I think that would be a good outcome. But yeah, we're obviously relying on West Coast not taking Josh Lindsay.
Or we could take Lindsay, we can trade the other pick and swap Carlton's first rounder so we can death ride the shit out of them next year. And then we can use their pick. And then we can use their pick to match to get Walker when he nominates us at the draft next year.
That would be the most savage of trolling you will ever see if we did that. Oh, dear, that would be extraordinary. A lot of love for Lindsay. Yeah, he looks good. So, again, there's still the chance that West Coast could end up above us in some reality. And then what would then be interesting is, do you take the punt on pick 1 on a Josh Lindsay? That is an interesting question in itself because halfbacks typically don't draw a number 1 pick, but I think we're at a point in time where we need to pick need, and Lindsay's, I think, is a top 5 prospect, and I think we've got enough other midfielders that we need to just go for the guy who can kick the ball the best, and that's him. I think he seems like a no-brainer, but it's going to be fascinating. And if we can split a pick, great, and then try and trade in, there'll be some players out there like that aren't getting full opportunities at other clubs that will want opportunities that may slot in for us. We just don't know who they are yet, I guess.
Yeah, I've got another doozy which will get the melts going. We could finish above Carlton next year because they're a rabble, and then when they match after Walker nominates us, or they'll bid and then we can match. That'll get them going as well.
Plenty of ways that we can toy with them, that's for sure.
And then start a business selling graffiti cans and you'll make a fortune.
Oh, shitloads. That's money ready to be printed. Do you think Tom Brown should become a half forward long term?
No, leave him where he is.
I would say if we got Josh Lindsay in, I would be open to this idea. If you're going to have Banks and Lindsay off back, I think that then gives Brown a chance to maybe explore other positions up the ground if we think that's an option for him. And then Trainer still has to fit in somewhere as well. But if we don't get Josh Lindsay, I think I leave Brown at halfback, I reckon.
I'll put this question to you. Another idea. If we have, because Broad has already stated that he's out of contract next year and that will be him done. So do we keep Brown back but prioritise Brown over Broad at some point next year if we got Lindsay? So you'd have Lindsay, and I don't know too much about Lindsay, but if he was a running halfback like Banks, you could have those two, and then you could have Brown and Broad sort of swapping throughout the year, but prioritise Brown.
It definitely feels like, yeah, there would have to be some
I
type
really
of.
like Brown where he is.
I do too. I can definitely understand why there might be an attraction to use his weapons at different parts of the ground. I think that to your point with Brody finishing up, there would need to be some type of official passing of the torch between he and Tom Brown, I guess. So, yeah, they'll have to tee that up in some way. But I can definitely see the appeal to maybe trying him in other parts of the ground to use his weapons. I still think at this stage, I reckon we're still very much in an experimental phase with some of these second, third, fourth year players even. Like we're still trying to work out where they all fit, what positions they work best in. A little bit of trial and error is still happening. But then, yeah, we're going to lose Broad. And then, it might be a year or two later, Nick Vlauston finishes up and then things look different again. So that they're going to... This is why it's invaluable that they get so much game time playing alongside them, isn't it? Because they get to learn from them in real time on the field.
And it might well be that we have a chat with Broad at the end of the year and say that even though he's with us next year, the deal is that he's not guaranteed every week to play in the seniors.
Yeah, and that would be the same.
There does need to be a passing of the torch, and I'm sure he'll be on board with that sort of thing. That might be the way we go.
And I think that will be the same with players like McIntosh and Prestia if they are around next year as well, that great, stay at the club, but there may not be the guarantee to play X amount of games. And I think from their perspective, there needs to be a level of understanding that at some stage is going to happen.
Well, we've also got Gibcus to come in and play back next year as well. And also with McIntosh and Prestia, given the young depth we have with midfielders that we need to play, do they get the tap on the shoulder this year and say, look, it's been good, but we've got to play these kids now? Or they can stay and play VFL, which they may not be all that keen on. They might be, who knows?
There's plenty of ways it can work out. The one thing I'm mindful of, though, I'm mindful of not cutting another 1,600 games of experience in an off season. I can definitely understand everyone's viewpoint of not wanting to play them ahead of the kids, and I agree. I just think it would be really silly of us to completely cut ties. If they're willing to hang around and do the VFL time and help out when we need, I think that's the perfect outcome for everyone, because you've got players who can come in and play a role, and we've got good coverage, but we do need to prioritise giving the education and the minutes to the youngsters and the 2 to 3 and 4 year players. So there does need to be balance of some type. I agree. But I think it would be silly to fully part ways with another shitload of experience.
I do agree with that fully. But where I'm coming from is we need to have it so that when these guys do retire, that we've got people or players ready that have already basically they're retiring because their spot's been taken in the side, is where we have to get to.
Yeah. And they need to force them out as well. Like they need to force those guys out of a spot. Out of interest then, Matt, where do you think he'll play? I really like him on the back flank. I know we floated on, might have been Monday night. Maybe he moves to the midfield or the wing or something like that. As for the now, and I think most definitely for next year, I think he'll definitely be playing on the half back line. But I can definitely see his potential to develop and grow and have other impacts elsewhere. But only that for me can only happen if there's an equal or better replacement for him at half back. If we can't do that, we don't move him. Because otherwise we're just robbing ourselves, because the halfback is a really underrated part of the ground, and it's actually kind of been a weakness for us for a few years, hasn't it, compared to other teams?
Yeah, well, it's taken us half a season to replace Rioli, and we've now finally done it, so I'm not moving him personally. And you look at the top-rated players in the game, a lot of them are halfback flankers, which are running halfbacks.
Yeah.
They're an underrated player within the game now.
I can definitely see him playing on a wing, Matt. I definitely don't disagree. We just need to make sure there's an apt replacement first before we pull that trigger. Grant, the VFL game will be on the AFL website tomorrow, or the AFL app. So if you go, when you're on the app and you click on fixtures and then you look at the match center, click on the drop, it'll say AFL Premiership Season on your drop-down menu. Change it to VFL, and then it'll have like watch now at 12 o'clock roughly. It'll come up, so you can watch it there. And make sure you tune in here for the live show as well. We can't show the game, but we watch along and enjoy all the happenings of the VFL. I think that might be about it. Any other final thoughts from you, JR, on this year, today, next year, next week? Anything you've got?
Not at this stage. Just stick with it. We're not Carlton, so it's all roses from here.
All roses. I know.
Why not?
Tough few weeks, but we'll get better.
Yeah, well, in reality, this is like the last month that we've copped. That's what we've been expecting all year, so we've done quite well overall. I would just hate for the back end to fall out of our season early, but it may happen, it might not. If we get belted again in the next 2 weeks, then that's probably a sign that we're done for the year as far as being competitive goes, but I would expect that we can give those sides a run.
I agree. The next 2 weeks for me are the most telling with what our form line's going to be like for the rest of the year. If it's the same type of margin, then
too.
yeah. And which one, sorry?
And also regarding positioning, regarding midfield rotation.
Yes.
I do want to see some new names in there against. I can understand the last month because we've been up against some pretty big boys, but we're up against some lesser players, shall we say, in the next couple of weeks at least.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So let's see what the kids can do for now.
That's it. Well, thank you for your time again tonight, mate. Much appreciated. And we'll reconvene next week and we'll see how we go from there.
Yep, we'll do.
No worries. Thank you, mate. Appreciate it.
Tigers. No worries. Thanks.
Oh, all right. We'll take a few more questions before we wrap up. What have we got in chat? Oh, Trezise. Damien, I haven't actually mentioned Trezise yet. That's a good shout. He's probably had a pretty good month, I reckon, of football. I think he'll come in for Hugo Ralphsmith. I think Hugo will miss because of the hamstring. So he's probably one we didn't mention in the outs. But Trezise, I think, will come in because he can play multiple roles, assuming that he does okay again tomorrow. But yeah, I think he's been doing not so bad in the VFL in recent times. That's actually a really good shout. At least we're not Carlton guys. Agree. Yeah, look, Brown's definitely not a worry from my perspective. Anyway, it's just about where do we think he can have the most damage for us long term? It's where will he have the most damage? Like I said, I can definitely see why we would maybe trial him in another position. He's a beautiful kick, isn't he? It's just we need the ball in his hands more. Obviously, Banks wants the ball in his hand as well. So it's just one of those things. We've got to try and find the perfect balance. But like I said, I really do think we're still at a point in time where we're trying to flick around ideas and try and work out players' best positions. So we're still going to see what happens there. M-King commiserations the Cats were far too good. It was to be expected. It wasn't that vast of a different result to what we were expecting, to be honest. McAuliffe to come back in. How far is McAuliffe? What was he listed as on the fitness report? Is he 3 or 4 weeks? I mean, he's another one that was playing really good in the month leading up to him hurting himself. Who do you want to draft alongside Lindsay? So the video I put out the other day, I did like a mini mock draft. I called it a mini mock draft because I literally just did the first 4 picks because I don't think I'm qualified enough to speak about what other teams will do for the entirety of the first round at this stage. I haven't put enough thought or research into it. But in terms of the first 4 picks, even though we all know and think it's bullshit that Oscallon will get a first round compo, I think we also all know that it's probably going to happen because of the secret herbs and spices. So I went off the assumption, why is all my stuff backwards? I went off the assumption that West Coast would end up with picks 1 and 2, and I think they will take Dyson Sharp and Cooper Duff Tytler as 1 and 2. So that would leave us currently with pick 3 and 4. I've got us taking Josh Lindsay, and I was tossing up between Sam Grill and Fred Rodriguez. And I ended up going with Grill because I just felt like the Grill was a bit more explosive, had a bit more, I suppose, agility and athleticism, although there's probably not the same body of work as a midfielder. So Grill last year was a halfback and is now transitioned to the midfield this year. But then in the champs, the only game they've played so far, he was played at halfback and I think he had like 3 handballs, 2 or 3 kicks and about 14 or 15 handballs. So that's not a great ratio, but maybe there was reasons why he had to handball at every occasion. I don't know. But I just think from a potential perspective and a speed perspective, I just feel like Grill maybe offers a little bit more than Rodriguez at this stage. But I have liked what Rodriguez has done. He just was a little bit fumbly in some of their champs games too, which sometimes is of concern. But they would be who I would have. The other player's name that I had up on my list was Noah Hibbins-Hargreaves. And he had a really good game a couple of weeks ago. I think he had 4 goals off about 15 or 16 disposals. But then he had another one the other day where he only got about 5 or 6 touches. So there's quite a bit of inconsistency in his performance. So I want to see a bit more of the higher end before you would commit to using a higher pick. But maybe that's where, if we split a pick, maybe that's where he comes into play potentially. That's right. Truthfully, we only care about the first 4. That's exactly why I only did the first 4. It seems. Oh, you reckon? I reckon it's the other way, Justin. Unless you've heard otherwise. Didn't he go and explore the conversations first? I felt like it was him wanting out, but I mean, it seems very unlikely that he will stay. I'm not so sure that Sharp would fit us well. I know that might seem controversial. I just feel like we've got a couple of Dyson Sharp types already, and I don't know if we need more. And that's why I would lean towards Lindsay ahead of him. Callaway we're probably going to get regardless anyway, which is good. And I know that Sharp and Callaway worked well together. And I know Sharp's performed really well at the Champs. I just don't know how he would go fitting in with us. Yeah, I'm really torn on that. I'm really torn. What will be tricky is if the Eagles get above us on the ladder and we end up with pick 1 ourselves, what do we then do? Because do you feel that Josh Lindsay's a reach at pick 1? I think it's worth the risk because he's the best kick in the draft class. And I reckon that above all else, our team needs people who can kick the ball. We don't need to find any more accumulators, I don't think, at the moment. I reckon we need to find the player who can kick the ball the best, and that is Josh Lindsay. So I, at this moment in time, would almost take him, irrespective if we've got pick 1, pick 2, pick 3, whatever it is. I would go him first, just because I think it's the biggest need for us right now. How about Will Dersma? He's a really interesting one. A utility, what is he, 191 centimetres. He moves really well. He's been using the back line a bit recently. His disposal is his disposal is definitely not like Lindsay's. It's very inconsistent, especially when under pressure. That will only improve as he gets exposed to more pressure and more high-speed games. So I definitely think he can improve on that. I just don't know. If I'm picking between Lindsay and Dersma, it's Lindsay 10 out of 10 times. Dersma's going to have some really, really good athletic traits that would be nice to have. The disposal part is my question mark, would be there. And he could play on a wing. He definitely could. I just need to have a bit more assurance about his kicking. Yeah, I'm the same player. Like we've got, and even Smiley and Lawler in some ways are similar. Like none of them have breakneck speed, right? And I think that's what we desperately need. No more hyphens. No debutants today, Em. We unfortunately, Sammy Lawler, I know you didn't ask this, but I'm just off on a tangent. Lawler unfortunately did his hamstring in the first 2 minutes really badly, but we'll see a few more Tiger Cubs play tomorrow in the VFL, and we may see some debutants from that the following week against the Bombers, I reckon. John, I don't think it'll be irresponsible. I think normally I would agree with you. If we didn't have the 8 picks last year, I would agree with you. I think us having the 8 picks last year and addressing so many needs, I think that changed the game for us. I don't think any other club could take a different approach like we could. Maybe I'm ultimately wrong, but I really do think that we're in a position to. And Josh Lindsay's, it's not like we're talking about a kid in the 15s or 20s. Like we're still talking about a top 6 pick. It's just where does he fit within that order? I think we go for the kid that we need the most to help our side. And we've got a few sharp types. We don't have any elite kicks of the ball, or don't have many of them. And Lindsay offers that. So I reckon that because of the recent draft, we can afford to be a bit more flexible in this draft if we had to do so. Don't want any Coates League stuff. If there's someone that's semi-quick and is elite ball user, and that's what I mean about Lindsay's elite ball user. I wouldn't say he's a jet quick, but he runs pretty well off halfback. I put his highlights up the other day on that draft video. And Grill's disposal is not so bad. His pace is definitely very good and agility is very good. But yeah, he'll definitely be in calculations for sure. Yeah, Stephen's been good. He actually looked really nice. When was he drafted? He looked like a very mature body. He did well. He did very well. If he was in the top 6 and we rated him 6, I would, yeah. I think he's rated higher than 6. I think he's rated in the top 4. I think I would most definitely take him ahead of Dersma. I would definitely take him ahead of Duff Tytler. The only one I would have question marks against taking him ahead of is Sharp, but based on us already having a few Sharp types, I would have no hesitation. At the end of the day, John, we need someone who can kick the ball. Like, all we do as supporters is bitch and moan each week that we can't hit targets out of our back line. We get the chance to pick up the best kick in the draft, who's a top 5 talent. You take him. It seems like a no-brainer, to be honest. We've got the nucleus of a midfield already built. And you take the guy who can kick the ball. Next year, we're going to add a Tanner Armstrong, who'll be another midfielder. So we're going to be still adding youth midfielders as the years go on. But we need the best kicks of the footy, and he's a top 5 prospect. So get him in. Get him in. If we can't kick the ball to each other, what hope do we have? We've got no hope. Fred's quick. I reckon Grill's quicker. And I don't know, just in his chance games, his disposal's been a little bit iffy, I reckon, in the games I saw. Maybe a little bit fumbly too. He got a couple of nice goals. I don't know how much of it is to do with the strength of the WA side. Is maybe forcing a bit more workload onto him potentially. But his other game highlights looks really nice. And he's obviously, the other difference with Rodriguez as well is similar to Sharp. He's had exposure at the senior level as well, which I think does count for a little bit when it comes to drafting. But I just felt that Grill was maybe a bit more agile and nimble. A bit more nimble. Bad kicking is bad football. And that's that's killing us just in all parts of the ground, isn't it? Modern game requires elite kicks. Absolutely it does. We would be batshit crazy not to do that. If we get Sharp, that's the thing. If we do get Sharp, I just don't know how it fits with the other midfielders we've got that are already existing. So something would have to give. Sam Cumming, he's starting to push up the ranks, isn't he? He's another one that's bolting a little bit. There's plenty of names out there. It'd be nice if we can somehow secure North Melbourne's pick to be top 5. I think, is it 1 or 2 more losses, hopefully? And that should almost be a guaranteed top 5 or 6 pick. And then it just comes down to, do we take it or do we split? However that might look. We'll have to wait and see. So, all right, well, that might be a wrap for tonight, guys, because it's 11:15. But we are going to be live tomorrow for the VFL game. We'll be live at about 12 o'clock, I reckon, maybe a bit early so we can settle in for it. Obviously, as you guys all know, we can't show the game as such on the screen, but we all watch it on our own devices. We can talk about the happenings in the game and chat footy and whatnot. So make sure you tune in for the VFL game. Miles, yeah, I think he re-signed, Matt. I reckon every Melbourne club spoke to him. I'd be gobsmacked if they didn't, but I'm pretty sure he either just recommitted to Port or he's about to, which is a bit disappointing for everybody else anyway. But live tomorrow for the VFL, so make sure you jump in and tune along for that. With obviously Gibcus playing his first game, which is massive. We obviously want Tash Houghton to have another big game so he can put his hand up for AFL. Jaden Short gets a run in the VFL as well. Be interesting to see where he lines up, whether he lines up half back, half forward, midfield, what that looks like. Hayes Brown, if he can dominate again. Tyler Young, we're looking for a forward to stand up. So there's plenty to look out for tomorrow in the VFL game. 12 o'clock will be live. Make sure you tune in on YouTube. And I appreciate all of your love and support. Thank you for the chat and all the questions, and for those who came onto the FANCAM. Appreciate it. And until tomorrow, go Tigers.